catch, Tom. And any questions on the first 5 items? And then otherwise we'll ask we'll go to Jonathan. I have no questions on those first 5 items. Jonathan, thanks for being willing to step forward and join the BZA. That was the first thing I did when I got in town government, and it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot when we occasionally met. Can you talk to us about what you're thinking and your thoughts with joining the BZA?
Sure. Hey, I'm just turning on my camera. Yeah, I considered a number of things when you and I talked, as well as Tom, and I think this makes sense for me to be on the zoning committee because I've got time to dedicate to that. We talked about other things that may have been too much of a time commitment with what I've got going on right now. So I really want to help the town out if I can. And I thought this would be a good place for me to learn and to add value to the town. I'm obviously not a zoning expert. I'll have to get up to speed on some of the rules, but I think based on my kind of professional experience over the last 30 years, I should be able to do that pretty quickly and bring value.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Any questions for Jonathan?
Mayor Billy, just so you know, you're pretty quiet.
Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. Thanks, Jonathan. Any questions for Jonathan from the board members?
No, thanks for throwing your hat in the ring.
Yeah, thanks for stepping up.
Sure.
Yeah.
Jonathan, you'll soon learn the 4 principles you have to judge everything by, and then it's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
And yeah, and it's a good group of folks on the board, and don't mean a lot, but yeah, the decisions you make are they don't need to come to us. You are your own quasi-judicial board, and the BZA makes final determinations often with their decisions. And yeah, I appreciate you doing this.
Great. Yeah, glad I can do it, and I'm looking forward to meeting the rest of the team. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, do I hear any motions?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Macy?
Mayor Pro Tem Mahold,
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail, Trustee Severs,
Yes.
Mayor Billy,
Yes.
Trustee Sterling,
Yes.
and Trustee Corvalon. We are approving the consent agenda.
Yeah, I'm just curious why Eric said no. Was there something on there besides?
I'm still
Was
against
it
the animal control services.
animal control?
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. I hear you. Okay, so yes.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for being consistent.
Yes. Thanks. I threw my no vote at the budget for that very reason. Well, one of those reasons. Right. So that we will move on and hear from SE Group to give us the comp plan. Give us an update on our comprehensive plan.
Yeah, perfect. Hi, everyone. So the update on the process is that we will be having an open house next Tuesday, 5 to 7 on January 23rd. I didn't double check, but there is some material that should be going out on Facebook and Instagram today. There was also coordination with the Mountain Ear as well to get that out to the public. I do believe that Peter was able to get information into the community newsletter that went out with the utility bills earlier this month as well. So other than those engagement opportunities, we will also be Miranda provided a stakeholder contact list, so I will be letting all the various town boards and other organizations within the town, more direct awareness about this event. I think, Miranda, was the question list included in the packet?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm hopeful that most people went through that and were able to have at least a general understanding of the types of questions that we'll be asking at the open house. If people have feedback on, the answers included or the type of questions or something that we may have missed, I'm happy to take that feedback and make sure that we incorporate that before the question set is finalized. The only other coordination item that I want to talk about before we jump into that is the multimodal transportation plan. They just finished up their first round of engagement. We're working with Fair and Peers closely on both that plan and this planning process. So the existing conditions and engagement documents will be up on Engage Nederland soon for your review as well. And just awareness and information. There's a lot of really helpful stuff in there. So anyway, back to the open house. Was there anything that, we see as like a red flag or something that might be missed in this question set?
I think the questions were good, really good. What are we doing for engagement, and what do you consider success in terms of how many people you want to have participating?
That's a good question. So we will both have a in-person open house where we typically see, 100 to 150 people over the course of 2 hours. That would be success for me. And I think another form of success is just getting members of the community in the same room. And I really enjoy the organic conversations that I get to overhear during that time. We will also have an online version of these questions available. So that'll be available pretty much the day of the event. And over the next 2 to 3 weeks after the event, we'll continue promoting that to collect more feedback. So I don't know, maybe we could push to get 300, 400, 500. I'm not sure what the exact scale will be for Nederland, but that would be awesome.
Another question: What is a Likert scale?
Yep.
It appears
that it's like just asking 1 to 5 essentially to rate. So with that question, what we've asked is, does it align with your vision? It's like yes, no, maybe, and we can add other options in there if we see the need. But generally, that's what it is.
cool. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I know. So, honey,
There was one thing I had a question about, which was in the economic development priorities section. Specifically called out was natural food store, but kind of no other grocery services were indicated there. And I was wondering if there was a reason for that.
I would say the reason for that, as far as I can tell, is that there is an existing grocery store, and some of the communities that we work with, they would have to travel to find something like that. So this is a little bit more niche in that sense. If you feel like there is community sentiment to have a different or an expanded grocery store, just typical grocery store, we can absolutely add that as one of the answer choices.
Yeah, I guess we have a natural food store as well as a grocery store. So I was kind of wondering why
great.
one was kind of called out rather than the other. I mean, one of the things that we also lack are things like, a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker. Those kinds of things are often missing from the community, and we kind of rely on the BNF to serve a lot of those needs that sometimes they're maybe not equipped to do so. So I just thought that more kind of food type of businesses that are not restaurants, but that are for people who actually live here might be listed explicitly.
Yeah. Okay, so we could say like local food provisions or something, local food producers of
something along those lines, because I know it's something that folks talk to me about all the time that they're frustrated with. So I think it's something that should be on there rather than just letting them write it in.
Yep. Awesome. I like that.
Are there more questions for the C group? Are you all gonna be showing us I'm sorry, presentation here?
It's in the packet.
Right, I didn't know if they were showing a PowerPoint as well. That's what.
Yeah, no, so the questions are really what we want to get feedback on. And I think the next time that we come to the board, we will have sort of more existing conditions and public engagement content for you. And at that point, we'll likely have some sort of a presentation for you.
That's fine. I thought you were, and I was expecting that. I just wanted to make sure I was introducing it and you weren't waiting on me. 'Cause I'm sorry.
Hi, this is Tanya. I'm online. I was wondering, how do you want people to answer these questions?
Yep, so they're going to be on like poster boards throughout the community room, where people will have both pens to write answers in and also sticker dots. So when we ask, like, let's look at the top one, the recreation, parks, and open space priorities. So we'll have a set of 12 boxes or something, and people will select the ones that they think should be most prioritized.
Great. And then after the workshop, will this be available on a website or online for people to answer remotely?
Yep. There'll be a survey that we'll create with these exact questions.
Great. Thank you.
Sorry, I had one more suggestion. This is Eric in the room, which was under, there was a section in here on emergency response and what people think should be prioritized. And flood was not one of the options, which is something that personally keeps me up at night, because we are right on a creek that is prone to flooding and we do not have any mitigation in place for that. So I wonder if that should be included as well as wildfire and the others.
Yeah. So what group in town would be the group that responds to a flood? I think that that's what this question is getting at.
Unfortunately, we're talking about emergency preparedness.
Yeah.
I see. So the question is, what emergency response areas should Nederland focus investment in during the next 5 to 10 years?
And I do think that we have kind of been somewhat negligent in addressing our flood response capabilities as a town.
But who would respond to it?
I mean, someone's got to, right?
Right.
So if we're going to invest in it, it's going to be into something.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a different situation for us in that we have some staff who's overseeing like our emergency preparedness or emergency plans. There's not a specific department that's associated with, but flood and like how we deal with flood and disaster management in that arena, I think is, yeah, it doesn't fit into a really nice department.
Well, and maybe it needs to, but in order for that to happen, there would need to be investment in that area, right?
Do you get what we're getting at? Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it does seem like there's both a planning component to make sure that if there is a flood, people know the chain of command and the order of operations there. But if there isn't a specific group identified, then it makes it pretty tricky. So I can add a question or an answer here that says flood responders or something like that. But yeah, otherwise I wouldn't know exactly which group to add this into.
This is Tanya. Do we? Sorry, go ahead.
Yours, Tanya.
Do we have our Office of Emergency Management kind of up and going? I thought Troy was kind of the head of that.
So the town receives services from the Boulder County Office of Emergency Management. Troy is our emergency manager and therefore the local contact and kind of liaison, but it's not a whole department. It's just Troy.
Right.
And Dawn Baumhofer for years has got her tiered checklist of who anybody that goes through the emergency training thing gets read in and badged with FEMA and Homeland Security, and there's a protocol, and it's pretty straightforward. But we don't communicate it, or you would know.
Okay, well, I could say Office of Emergency Management and then put in parentheses like flood response, fire response, or, power outage response, like whatever it goes under their office responsibilities or their planning responsibilities.
I mean, 'cause
But it does seem, yeah.
I feel like for a flood, it's kind of a similar, you evacuate, you deal with the emergency, and then you return. It's not necessarily that much different than any other emergency, in my opinion.
Right. It's
But
probably more
what
about
is the group
priority,
down?
correct? It's probably more about priority. Do we prioritize? Because the question reads is what emergency response areas should Nederland focus investment on during the next 5 to 10 years? So it's like, is it flood or is it something else?
But yeah, Eric, I'm sure your insurance carrier is looking at the same as mine and saying, "Oh, we see a danger." And ours, flood insurance took a big jump this year.
Yeah, and I mean,
Mm.
2013 Nederland got very lucky.
Yeah.
And we did not have anything in place to really deal with that.
I was in Table Mesa. I got the downside. But
Yeah,
there
but
is,
no, I think this is a good thread to think about through this project is both, who is responsible in the town of flood risk mitigation broadly. There's probably some educational components, just letting people know what 100-year floodplain is, what they can do in the event of a flood.
there's also a liability issue for town. There's an escalation sequence that the anybody that's badged to do this has been through the training. It goes through a sequence, and if you don't escalate in time, the bill is in your pocket until you turn it up over to the next authority. So I've got something on my iPhone that declares an emergency.
It's true, but it's really the district that we would follow the fire districts. I mean, so I think it's kind of like the emergency plan. For sake of what you all are doing, we have an emergency manager. He is getting trained and kind of still getting his feet under him completely. We'll be working some with the county, we'll be working with the local fire districts, but we kind of maybe just need to break up the different hazard, likely, different types of hazards that are likely to happen.
Right. Like, do we have things in place like upstream detection for when, something might come so that we can give an adequate lead time for a potential evacuation? Have we actually looked at footbridges on private properties that could present massive risks to catching debris and causing overflow of the creek and then washing out the entire town, right? Like, there's a lot of things that haven't been done that I think need to be done that go kind of, beyond just what do we do when the water's on us.
Yeah, and this board has responsibility.
Okay. Would this group be okay if I added the bullet point here of just flood mitigation and response as an answer for people to select?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yeah, other questions? And this it's occurring on the 23rd, right? So
Yep,
next
Tuesday the
Tuesday
23rd,
night, 5 to 7
5 to 7.
in this room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. And there's something that morning, I understand too, right, Miranda? Is the 23rd? Is that?
Yeah,
or
but
that-
that's more of a
Okay.
small
never
scale business outreach.
mind. Okay, thank you. Well, this looks
Perfect. Well,
pretty good. Thank you for preparing this.
yeah, of course. If there's anything that you think of later this evening, have Miranda email us and we can get them updated. But otherwise, we will be there next Tuesday.
Thank you.
Yay. We'll have it plowed.
Please. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. I'm gonna sign off unless there are any other questions.
Any other questions? I think we're good. Thank you for your time tonight.
Yeah, of course. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Next up is Macy. An update.
All right. So good evening, everyone. This is an informational update on the municipal election that will be occurring on April 2nd, 2024. So I don't have much to update you on since our last informational update on the election. So I'll run through the aims super quick. Again, we have a mayoral seat that is up for election, and we have 4 trustee seats that will be up for election. I am the designated election official, and we will be holding a mail ballot election. The nomination petitions have been released. They are due on Monday, January 22nd. There is a copy of the nomination petition in the packet, but I have hard copies available at Town Hall if you want to come pick one up. And alternatively, you can also hit our website and download one from there. Some update in terms of the nomination petition. As of Tuesday, January 9th, Tom Mahold has been certified as a candidate for the office of mayor. And so that's really all I have in terms of updates. Do you guys have any questions?
What's your process for going through election officers or whatever they're called?
Judges?
Judges, yeah.
So I actually have 3 judges secured, and I'm just waiting on communication from my 4th judge. I think I'll just have to reach out via phone. Statutorily, I'm only required 3, so I have all my bases covered. Yeah.
I think when you ask about, these are all judges who have served before, and that's ideal. So do you want to name who is
Yeah.
confirmed?
So we have Joan Isaacs confirmed, we have Scott Papich, and we have Andrew Bliss confirmed.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrew.
And maybe just for sake, I'm acknowledging that Andrew Bliss is a staff member. That day he does not work. So he takes the day off so he can serve in this capacity.
And he has served as an election judge in 2 or 3 of my previous elections. Yeah, so
Free food.
thank you, Andrew. Appreciate your help.
Yes, thanks. Okay, thank you. All right. Is everyone's wireless not working? It's just mine. Okay, great. I'll go back to the old PDF. So with that, thank you for your time, SE Group and Macy, and we'll go into our first discussion item, the Tourism Advisory Board. I think Peter.
Do you want to make a mention about that?
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks. So our first discussion item has been rescheduled for numerous reasons, weather initially and weather being one initially. We will reschedule the Bobcat Ridge discussion has been rescheduled for now. Potentially, it looks like potentially as a joint meeting on the 27th of February with the PC and the BOT. So at the moment, so there will be no presentation by the Bobcat Ridge tonight. So pay attention to our website and our agenda announcements so that you're clear when that's going to happen. Thank you. And with that, we will go to our first or second discussion item. Is Peter online?
Yeah, I'm here.
Take it away.
All right. Good evening, everybody. We are here to tell you a bit about a proposed idea for a tourism advisory board that would work with me on various tourism-based ideas and projects that may come up. This idea came out of the Reimagined Destinations program, which was done in 2022 through the Colorado Tourism Office as one of the goals, and it was picked up again last year and this year through the continuation of that with Destination Blueprint. So what we are bringing to you today is a draft of bylaws for a potential tourism advisory board. Those are included in the packet. And basically asking if you have any questions regarding the structure or what this board would do, or if you've looked over the bylaws, any changes that you may recommend for us, and if you would like us to move forward with this.
So do we have any clarifying questions for Peter?
I'm curious because I think this was originally proposed as a subcommittee under ProSAP. And so why the decision to make it an official board? Why the need to expand?
Yeah, so two reasons. The first was that if we are going to be serious about managing tourism within town, it made sense to have it be an actual appointed advisory board that met regularly instead of a subcommittee. In the past, we've had issues with subcommittees disbanding after either their job is done or just over time. So we wanted to kind of put the weight behind it. And also, just the more we've discussed this, the more it became apparent that it is something that, tourism isn't going anywhere. So it's not something we want to just have as a temporary thing. And it also didn't really seem to fit as a subcommittee of ProSab, as tourism kind of encompasses all parts of town and even parts of the area outside of our town. So it was just big enough scope-wise to make it its own board.
Maybe can I just add on to that? When I mentioned this to ProSab that we were looking at this, they fully supported it. They too didn't feel like it made sense as a subcommittee of theirs, especially since we're looking at tourism from a larger perspective than just recreational tourism, where they felt like if there was any sort of subcommittee, it would be really focused on their purview, and this is much larger. And so for all the factors that Peter mentioned, and really also recognizing that ProSab felt it was inappropriate, that's really why we feel like give it its weight, give it its priority. And again, Peter is a team of one, and so how great would it be to have 7 to 8 board members who can provide guidance and support and direction as we start to really work through some of these tourism management matters that are before us.
Okay, second question. Well, I guess I'll just kind of be be direct. This over priority over public engagement, some sort of public engagement advisory board?
I think
Sorry, what?
I think that you can recommend it as both. Obviously, we're following the guidelines of Reimagined Destination Blueprint, which really called this a tourism advisory board. If the recommendation of the board is to open the scope to be, public engagement in tourism, we of course would want to define what that scope looked like, because we really, advisory boards are supposed to support staff and not get in the mix of the day-to-day. So we'd want to take some time to look at that more. But of course, recognize that, yes, that is the dual role of the staff. And so there could be opportunities for us to continue to kind of whittle down on this scope in a way that's supportive in nature. I think for me, that's very important here, that as with any advisory board, it has to support the staff. It can't be coming in to tell the staff how to do their job. I mean, that's why the staff member is hired, but it gives guidance and advises on best strategies and practices. And then of course takes on projects and helps to do some of the things that we don't always have the personnel to take on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, just in looking at this, that was kind of sort of my fear, is that it seemed like the public engagement part of your role, Peter, was taking a little bit more of a back seat. And so I just wanted, that was part of my clarifying questions. So we can follow up on it in discussion.
I'm wondering, this is Tanya, what day and time you were thinking about this? Because aren't all the days kind of full already? I guess
Yeah, we were, Miranda, we discussed what it would be around 6 o'clock on
The first Wednesday of every month.
first Wednesday. Yes.
Every
For some
month.
reason I was thinking Friday. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Gotcha.
did set it for monthly. There was about quarterly, but really watching quarterly boards, in my experience, you just don't see them get things done. And so monthly is the way to go, I think. And so, yes, we recognize there are minimal days, but the first Wednesday is one of those that does not have currently a standing meeting.
I know there was talk of a police advisory board. I don't know if that is, I'm trying to like, what's more, like how, just like Nicole was, what's more important for everyone's time? Is this more important or is that more important? I'm not against this. I just think something's gonna give as far as like how many trustees and how many boards there are. We may not be representing so much at those distant boards like the RTD one or something if they have to go to another meeting here, but I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah, I personally was kind of the whole liaison side of it. I feel like the youth advisory board is a board where we've tried that, but it just doesn't seem like there's a lot of value. I mean, our most sometimes they meet, sometimes they don't, and I almost feel like that could become a monthly, update from Max that runs it, and that we could move our liaison, instead of having a liaison to the youth advisory board, they would move to another board. be
That
it
makes
tourism,
sense. Yeah,
police, or
yeah.
public engagement.
Who's on the youth advisory? Oh, okay.
Presently, no one, but
It was me and I could never make their meeting times. It
well,
was-
and you made one, and you were the only one there.
Yeah.
For a couple hours.
Miranda, let Max know. I'll answer all of his questions.
Well, youth advisory board has really strong staff support.
Right.
And so
That's
I
the
do
other side of
agree,
it.
not, they wouldn't love having you there, but as you see, we have them, work with them to write letters, we support them, like, they're very well supported by staff. And so I think if there was kind of a trade-off, we feel comfortable too, that we can keep, and their meetings do change quickly and are constantly moving around. And so it's a little bit easier for us to accommodate than I think a lot of board members.
Yeah, and I think Max would probably give us an update that would be more valuable anyways.
Right, or really ideally they
Diana.
could come to give you.
Yeah, better yet.
Yeah, I mean, my question is similar, is one of priority. I mean, this does seem to be coming out of, destination blueprints and all of that. And I recognize that that is a kind of a big project that has a lot of different elements. I can see the value of this, but I've wanted there to be a human services advisory board for a long time. Human services advisory board that would include talking about things like police and enforcement and things like that, and code enforcement and things like that, because that's part of human services, as well as, our access to medical care, urgent care, and things like that in town. So, I mean, to me, that would be a higher priority advisory board to add to the schedule than what's being proposed here. What's being proposed here, I think, is being proposed because we have some resources behind it, because we have a program behind it, because we're working with the state and all of those things. And I recognize that. I understand that. It's just not my top priority for a new advisory board. I was going to save that for F, but now I said it.
Yeah.
Sorry to ask you to repeat yourself, but what advisory board would you prefer, Eric?
A human services advisory board, similar to what you were mentioning, something that dealt with,
But that's more
emergency
encompassing.
services, policing, code enforcement, human services broadly
Yeah.
defined.
I like that. I like that too.
I know we've talked about the police advisory board before, and given so much money goes that way, I think that was the sound logic for that. And Miranda and I have talked some about it. We don't necessarily know how well received that would be by the county. So that's just I know neither Superior nor Lyons has such a thing that specifically advises.
Well, which is why I
But-
don't think
but a
calling it
human
police advisory board makes sense.
And
But,
then,
yeah, calling it human services And then, if we notice something, or if that board noticed something about the way we are allocating resources to, let's say, law enforcement, they could come to us and say, hey, have you guys considered blank? And then we could go to the Boulder County Sheriff's Office and talk to them about it, right? Like that to me would be how it works. Not that there's some, police advisory board that's directly talking to our sergeant. Like, I don't think that would be appropriate, but a human services advisory board, broadly defined, that could take up issues around policing as far as town is allocating resources to that service, which we are.
I agree
Any other
with what
clarifying?
you're
Go
saying,
ahead,
Eric.
Jason.
Oh, I'm appreciating what Eric's saying, and I feel aligned with what you're saying there, Eric.
Does seem a little more like a all-encompassing board. Any more clarifying questions? I do want to go to public comment, and then we can come back for more discussion. If not, we'd like to open up for public comment on this particular thing, the Tourism Advisory Board. I'll go ahead and open up to the folks in the room first. If you have any comments you want to make on this subject, it's a discussion item, is something we're considering a Tourism Advisory Board. And if not, 3 minutes. If not, we go to folks online. Does anyone online have a comment they want to make on this discussion item?
We did have to mute some calling users, the *6.
Okay, if
Hello?
you're talking, yep, there you go.
Hello?
Go ahead. Yeah, we can hear you.
Kathleen Chipai, 32-year resident of Magnolia Star Route and 20-year business owner. I'm against this panel altogether. I think it's going to go over as well as the logo went over. I thought Peter was public engagement. I can tell by the aim that was proposed for Peter's position that it was going to end up having nothing to do with public engagement of our community, but turn into some crazy tourism thing. This board is not necessary. I'm concerned about spending $10,000 to build yet another website. I just sent y'all an email. I don't even believe the town, who owns Netter Days and who owns the name Netter Days. I mean, I don't understand. We haven't had any reason to believe that we needed a tourism board before. We have established that there's poor communication between town staff, the agendas that they're moving forward, and the residents of Nederland. And, months ago, I sent a link to Crested Buttes website. Crested Buttes website is a one-page thing that has everything on it, and you can easily assess everything. And I said, can we stop building separate websites? So now we have the Netter Days. We have the other one. I can't believe we're considering spending $10,000 of anybody's money. I don't care that it's free grant money. That's taxpayers' dollars from somewhere. Those are other people's money. I think it's wasteful. I think we've been staring at a link on the homepage of the Nederland website that says businesses, local businesses under construction. We weren't asking for a separate website for tourists. So I think this I can't believe the amount of time being wasted on this. I really can't. Not when the foundational records are in complete disarray, okay? And the residents can't get answers out of the community. And like I said, this is not going to go over any better than the presentation of the logo that no one seems to like, maybe 3 people. So I'm against all of this, especially this advisory board, and especially taking any more grant money to build any other website. It's outrageous. I mean, I don't even know what we all have to keep track of, looking at 7, 8, 9 different pages to find out what's going on in town as residents. So that's my public comment. Thank you. I'm available for questions if anyone has them.
Okay. Any questions? If not, does anyone else have any public comment online?
Yeah, can I speak?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm trying to raise my hand on here and the hand button is not working. Barbara Hart, 245 Apollo Drive, Blackhawk. I just wanted to say that this does seem to come on the end of the reimagined destinations and all of these other things that we're applying for grants for. And I think that this fall, the tourism board, we have invited Peter, and I hope he will start attending the Peak to Peak Chamber of Commerce meetings, because that is what they are doing. And they're doing it from Allen's Park to Blackhawk and Central City. Netherlands right in the middle of that. There are a lot of plans being made. There are awesome things happening. And this board makes absolutely no sense with the other things happening in the community that are already there. They don't take your grant money. As well, we have a DDA that has also been promoting the local businesses for a long time. So I think that this board is just a waste of time. Everybody in this community is already spread way too thin with what they're doing to try to support the community. Let the ones that are out there trying to do this have an opportunity to prove they can do this, instead of forming another board, another meeting, another night for people to go to. Thank you.
Thanks, Barb. Any questions for Barb? Yeah, I guess I got one quick one. So to like, for sake of Netherlands benefiting from the Peak to Peak Chamber of Commerce, it would be members of the chamber who have businesses in Netherlands, right? Is that how the conduit would be for that kind of focus for
All
tourism in
businesses,
Netherlands?
all businesses are welcome in the chamber, Billy. And, you know, they're just starting to amp up, bringing in members right now, as everything was formed slowly so that it was done right. And there's a huge map being done. You guys are going to see a story about that this week that encompasses the entire Peak to Peak. There's so much going on. And if Peter, who said he would attend the meetings, just not our last one, would come to the meetings, he would see, you know, all of the things that we're duplicating efforts on. And I see the exact same thing outside of Nederland. I'm on the GAP program in Gilpin, and we're duplicating efforts. And the Peak to Peak Chamber can bring this all together and make it so that everybody is communicating about the awesome things happening, instead of all of us doing this tiny little thing. We're doing it together. There are representatives from all the different communities that attend the Peak to Peak Chamber meetings, and it's just open to everybody.
Thanks.
Jonathan Baum over at the end.
Hey, Jonathan.
Hey guys, Jonathan Baum over 399 West 3rd. Hearing that the Peak to Peak Chamber of Commerce idea has finally come to life, I would wholeheartedly second what Barb Hart has said, that any advisory board in the town of Nederland, even if it has grant backing, would actually be a hindrance to the entire Peak to Peak community and not a help. It would be one more hurdle, one more bureaucratic process. And I would also like to second what Eric mentioned about a human health advisory board is far more important and actually way more in line with the desires of most constituents in this town, to see senior citizens and longtime residents actually taken care of, and I don't know, maybe infrastructure fixed, things along those lines. So I would just wholeheartedly second what Barb Hart just said. Do not duplicate efforts, especially if there's something finally coming together on a regional level as mountain towns. I had long suggested that ProSab also branch out and try to find a way to get a regional recreation department so that town of Nederland can focus on the things that it really should focus on: its infrastructure, its roads, and bringing down the property taxes for the residents that are trying to age in place up here in very, very unknown economic circumstances going into the future. So thank you guys for all your time and effort. And while it may be helpful to have state-backed grant funds I would also question what is the definition of managing tourists and how can the town of Nederland that has a hard time fixing the leaking pipe and the end of 3rd Street and Bridge for the past 2 weeks manage anything about tourism, which largely is Eldora Resort and National Forest Service and Boulder County Open Space, none of which we have prerogative or control over. So.
Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate it.
And thanks for your time and service too.
Yes.
Bert has his hand raised.
Go ahead. I can't see from here. Go ahead. Who was that?
Bert.
Thank you. Bert, go ahead, please.
Bert.
We can't hear you if you're talking.
And as well, you're gonna have to press *6 on your phone. The hands are coming up. Bert, unfortunately, we can't hear you.
If you didn't hear, just hit *6 if you're coming from a phone, *6, and that should unmute you. Or you can call in, right? Okay, well, Bert, any other comments, folks online? I'll just give you a minute to. We want to hear from you, but let's see if anyone else wants while you're getting connected. All right, Bert, if you want, we're going to go bring it back for discussion, but if you're able to connect with us, we'd love to hear what you want to say. So that will, hearing no other comments, we'll bring it back for discussion. I just have a couple. So with the Tourism Advisory Board, be Ned proper, or would it be? I mean, ProSab implies people from around the community are in ProSab. Could a tab members be from around the community or town only, and then does it serve the community or town only, as you envision it?
It would be. Yeah, go for it, Miranda.
Go ahead, Peter.
Okay. There is no residential requirement, so people from outside the community would be able to join it, but it would mostly be looking at how we as town proper would be managing our tourism, but also with that thought that knowing that people come through town a lot going to other places.
As you see in the bylaws, there is a recommendation that each representative comes from a different stakeholder group or category. So as Parks, Recs, Open Space, to local tourism business, nonprofit, event producer, Nederland resident, any.
Yeah, and when I saw pro, that made me think, well, it's not necessarily Ned residents. Yeah.
Right.
Which is great.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be something to discuss, if this board were approved. I do think that these categories might be too specific and a little narrow. Just like the idea that Ned resident is only one of them, it doesn't sit that well with me. It feels more like something like a business association in the way that it's laid out here. And in the vein of what some of our commenters have said, those associations do exist. We have the DDA, we have the Chamber of Commerce. And so it does feel, if it's going to be in this kind of these kinds of stakeholders very specifically targeted, it does feel more duplicative of those other groups. I'm not going to nitpick at these categories just because I'm not convinced that the Tourism Advisory Board is something we should prioritize right now.
This is Tanya. I agree with Eric. I'm not a fan, and we have DDA and the chamber. And honestly, another board to me is just like another headache. It's like anybody who ever tries to get anything done in this town has to visit every board and pitch it to them and get their approval or not and their feedback, and that they have to come and give it to the BOT. And while that's great, to add one more to the list seems cumbersome. And I don't know at this point if we need it. I don't find like tourism. I don't even know if you could fill, I mean, I'm not into it. So that's where I stand.
I mean, I do, I see the value.
I see
It's
the
for
value
me,
too. I just don't think we need to
question of
spend.
priority, right? It's like, I do think we do need to get better at managing influx of traffic, at managing the or let's say capturing the value that passes through this town, that takes a toll on the town but doesn't necessarily contribute a lot back, right? So people come through, they drive on the roads, they use our amenities and our resources. Are we capturing the amount of value that we actually need to be capturing from that pass-through traffic? I'm not convinced we are. I think we could do a lot better. I think that a board like this could be part of the solution to doing better in that regard, but I'm not convinced that it will be right now, considering the other challenges that we have and the relative kind of lack of representation we have for other areas that I just seem that to me are just more important.
Thanks, Eric. How about the other trustees? What do you think?
Yes, there is value in being able to form a board like this. I would also see, I'm not sure tourism is the right priority, especially when some of these other things like public engagement or health and human services or emergency preparedness, those would all be things that I would think, especially health and human services and emergency preparedness would have a higher priority. And this is our year of stabilization. This is something that we've committed to doing. And if there's another board coming in, you know, where does that, it takes away potentially from other focus. And also, you know, so yeah, so I would say that's part of it.
Can I just comment on that really quick? And I'm not sure Peter, it ended up making it into the game. In your 2023, 2024 strategic goals, one of your goals is leveraging sales tax through tourism. That is what this group seeks to do. And so I hear you, and I would like to push back a little bit. And then I feel like this is staff advancing that aspect of that revenue goal.
Mm-hmm. And in that list, it was as a suggestion, like, because we had made a list of all things that could potentially produce revenue, and that was a suggestion. It wasn't necessarily like the thing, right? And so that was just
correct. I guess what I would say though, in kind of staff, is we are bringing forward an option. So,
Yep.
So if you wonder why we're doing this, you have Reimagined Destination Blueprint, and your as like motivation to us of, okay, this does make sense to bring forward. It's not like we just pulled this out of a hat and we're like, this looks fun. We do feel like it ties to goals and projects and things that
absolutely, because I could see it tie back to Destination Blueprint. I could see it tie back, you know, to the goal or to those, you know, the number 5. I think what the board is saying is that it's not the right goal to prioritize, you know, as a board. Yeah.
Which, you know, we understand. I guess I just wanted to offer that clarification because I think there may be a little misrepresentation of why we brought this one.
No, I
totally understand.
When I said that revenue capture thing, that was something that we said in our retreat. That's something that we said in our priorities that we need to do better. This would be part of a solution for doing better on that. But I'm not going to vote for it. Sorry. I do appreciate the work done on it by staff.
And it is tough because yes, we need to manage the tourism. But I always look for what's the 20% effort that's going to give us an 80% impact. And I'm struggling with that.
It does feel like this one's inverted on that front.
It's inverted. It's the 80% effort to get a 20% impact. And that's what's in my heart and I'm struggling with.
Guess my ask would be, can we, you know, I understand, I think the takeaway I'm hearing and is not right now, but would love to keep this conversation open for when we look at 2025, 2026 goals. Like these are things that we can just know it's on the table. We brought it forward and just kind of let it lie for a little bit as we continue to let CTO finalize destination as we get more out of the comprehensive plan and some of that economic work that's being done by DCI, perhaps that'll give more insight into how this group could be formatted in a way to help realize some of these goals we've been talking about.
Yeah, and there could be other ways too, right? I mean, it might not be an advisory board. It might be, you know, I'm not saying I want this, right? I'm just saying an idea that exists in the world, right? Like some towns have business liaisons, right? Whose job it would be to work with the Chamber of Commerce and with the DDA, and you would have like a specialized position that has that as part of their job description, maybe among other things, right? Like there could be other ways of achieving a very, very similar goal that this board would achieve. So I think that achieving this goal is still something I'm interested in seeing.
Yes.
Whether this is the method, I'm not convinced.
Well, and out of Destination Blueprint, we did talk a bit about, you know, maybe there's a future and not tomorrow, but down the line of kind of an economic development department, right? That has more things, maybe a tourism group, you know, and it's again, not this like melded position, and Peter's position, of course, kind of paves the way for those conversations in many ways, but that came up out of Destination Blueprints too. And so I appreciate, and Peter, echo, if you feel otherwise, please let me know. But I do appreciate that you're willing to hear this and keep this on the table as the conversation, because, you know, as we are diving deeper into tourism management, like Jonathan said, defining that more, like that's what we're spending a lot of this year doing with DCI and SE Group and CTO, is really starting to continue to scope that down as we're entering more into that tourism management space.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think when this like concept really first started to like get reviewed again of having this board, we didn't have the Chamber of Commerce was still like building itself up. So like I do think there are like was mentioned, other options that are great alternatives for right now. That we can look at. And Barb, I do intend to start going to those meetings. I just need to know when they are. But yeah, I think at some point this is something that's going to be needing to be revisited, just to have more of a local voice in what happens specifically to town regarding tourism and tourism management.
Thanks, Peter. I guess, yeah, one thing I thought was, you know, how do we better get involved with the peak-to-peak chamber? And, you know, when I look at those 6, 7 bullets on the stakeholders that would be part of the tourism board, would there be a way to gather together some of those folks and have you and some of those folks start attending these the chamber meetings, and really kind of create a way for our kind of unified, sending a unified group of folks from NED to join this greater group that really is gaining momentum, and seeing out of that what comes for serving some of these purposes.
So I want to just note that although town staff have not had a chance to make it to the chamber, there is communication happening with the president of the chamber as well as the DDA executive director, and there's a smaller group that's meeting. So I guess I don't want it to come across like we haven't started that. We very much have. We've started the connection, really recognizing that there's a lot of things happening in silos, and so looking forward to continuing to meet as that kind of maybe leadership group of it, to see, because not, you know, town staff are at a lot of late night meetings, so sometimes it doesn't always work for us to attend, but we are still making sure that those connections are there.
Yeah, and maybe, no, yeah, and I didn't want to make it, because I do think the staff is definitely abreast of what's going on with the chamber, and that's not, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to imply that, but definitely, and it may not be that Peter needs to go, frankly, but that, you know, we have this group of NED folks, be they businesses, tourism businesses, nonprofit organizations, event producers, you know, NED residents in and around NED that are focused on this effort, and and they're kind of the group that, you know, one or more of them attends these chamber meetings and keeps up and has our voice louder in the chamber. That's all. Wants to the board trustees have. My only other comment is I would be kind of curious to learn more about, you know, kind of exploring first steps for a health and human services board, because it is an interesting
Can I just seek clarification? I do, you talk about that board and then you talk about not wanting to duplicate services and you have a peak-to-peak housing and human services. So I'm just trying to understand what the scope is you're talking about, because to me, that felt very similar.
Okay.
But maybe it's the police side. I would, for further clarification, and then yes, we're happy to bring it back. Just need that scope to tighter.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it as something that, well, I mean, it's something that I said that I wanted when I first got on this board. So it's something that I haven't been able to accomplish. I think that Peak to Peak does a great job, but I think that town allocates a significant amount of resources to human services. And in kind of the vein of Jesse's argument to this, like when you look at our budget and how much we allocate to certain areas, it does sort of make sense to me that our residents have the opportunity to join advisory boards related to our highest areas of expenditure, the most impactful parts of town and its budget. So a human services advisory board, I think, makes sense in that context, right? We spend a lot of money on it, but we don't really have a regular group of people who are working on that for town, right? We do have the Peak to Peak, amazing. And which is one of the reasons why I haven't, so disappointed that we haven't been able to make one, right? Because we have this other group that does a lot of great work. But if we were to make a new advisory board, I would like to see it in that area more than, and I think it could cover things like emergency management. I think it could cover things like, I mean, the effort to bring Clinica to town was amazing. We could support more efforts like that. We still lack email services desperately. So there are still things that could be done that I think that an advisory board for town could accomplish or help to accomplish.
One thing, Eric, from having attended those meetings for a couple of years, it's night and day between now that Miranda's running that group, but in effectiveness, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
But we're not, we're, I don't like it when we rely on individuals, right? To still be here.
Oh, yeah.
It's,
you got to have systems and processes.
Exactly.
People,
like,
unfortunately, come and go.
Right. People come and go. That's just a fact of life. And that would leave a huge void, I think. A town's voice would be severely diminished, right, if things were to change. And so I think having a more established procedure for a town to be involved in that would be good.
Process is a really good warm up for a discussion we're going to have later with our new candidates.
Indeed.
Totally.
Boards change too.
Yes, totally. Yeah, I was on the Peak to Peak Housing and Human Services Housing Subcommittee, and we talked to them. I think we introduced them the idea of like, could this become a town board? And they were so against it because they felt like they were more nimble, not being a town board. And so
geographically, they have issues.
Well, yeah, but it's kind of like we were talking about, kind of like the ProSab and SAB, like if we open it up outside of, doesn't have to be a net resident, just the greater Nederland community.
No, I think the only way to do that effectively is to do a special district, which would remove it from town government anyway. So I mean, I think that that's a different kind of a conversation. Like, right. To me, it's really more about like we as a town provide some human services. We spend a lot of money on law enforcement. What if we had a human services advisory board who could come up here and be like, hey, we think you should or should not allocate that $20,000 to Boulder County Sheriff's Office to add animal control, right? Like that's the kind of thing that they would be weighing in on. It would be a centralized location for the community to come and voice an opinion when that board meets, and that board could form a recommendation the same way that we do for parks, the same way that we do for sustainability. I think that health and human services are at the same level of importance as those things, whereas I don't think that tourism management is.
Amen. There's that's a 9 o'clock meeting you can start going to.
Are there any more comments? If not, I think, what else do you need?
Yeah, I think the direction I have is that we'll put this on hold and we'll come back to you with a human services advisory board. Seems like there was enough support.
And again, I mean, that in its own conversation and debatable when it comes.
Yes.
If it comes, and we've also got other strategies and priorities that we're trying to nail down.
Yes.
The year realization.
Yep.
I have a couple comments. It's
Cool.
Jesse. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Overall, generally aligned with everything's been said. And with that, I want to just sort of give a little moment of recognition to Miranda and your staff, Peter. And also, you know, I just really want to take a moment to appreciate alignment with the strategic goals and our strategic plan, our strategic priorities. And to the extent that we may be, you know, sending Miranda in a direction with the strategic goals and then, you know, perhaps taking one step back with not moving forward with this particular move. I apologize on, you know, for myself as a board member. And I want for us to do our best to stay aligned with the goals and the course that we chart out with our process of setting strategic goals. I don't know to what extent Health and Human Services Board is in our strategic goals. I very much am aligned with everything that was being said by Eric and other members. However, you know, I think that there's a lot to be said for us taking that time to do the strategic planning and then to get Miranda to start working on that. And you know, again, I agree with much of what's already been said, so I'll not repeat arguments as best I can. But as far as the Health and Human Services Advisory Board, I do really appreciate, Eric, you reiterating that we spend a lot of money on law enforcement, and that's public money that I feel that we owe it to the general public to have and allow for more sort of casting a wider net of bringing in and bringing in diverse opinions and expert advice and a broader filter of condensing and consolidating sort of a message and a will of the people and the will of the public for, you know, things like the $20,000 on animal enforcement. That's a great example. So I don't know if that's all in our strategic plan though. And so, you know, I want us to guard against kind of sending Miranda off on a different direction when we may not have plotted that out in our strategic planning.
Yeah, I really agree with you on that, Jesse.
Yeah, I'm looking through the strategic
So
goals now, and there's nothing specific in there.
I think that's why I mentioned, like,
so
not to necessarily bring to us the idea for a you know, a human health and human services, because we got to stick to the plan.
Yeah. I mean, I'd go as far as to say
I
that I'm
also,
not
you know,
giving a nod. Sorry, Jesse.
right, to any help. So at the same time, you know, that is something that I would like to see happen, and I don't know to what degree we could or should be shackled by our own strategic planning, or if we should consider some mechanism for making course corrections as we go as well in between those deeper planning periods, those deep dives, if you will, that we'll do on an annual basis. You know, if we think of something or something, you know, seems like the right direction for us to go in, like this particular conversation, we should consider some sort of mechanism for making adjustments to our strategic planning, in my opinion. So it's all just food for thought. And, you know, I guess I want to sort of protect Miranda's time and effort to a degree and not necessarily send her off on another wild goose chase in an effort to satisfy, you know, the spirit of this conversation right here about a lot of support for, you know, sending her in the direction of a Health and Human Services Board, perhaps as a way of just capturing some of what you've heard tonight. Miranda, you could explore bringing the existing peak to peak, because you mentioned the duplication there as well, perhaps we could somehow deepen that relationship. If you're on that board and you're leading and running that board, that's great. That's a great liaison, so to speak. And maybe there's an opportunity for us to just continue to strengthen that relationship as a way of kind of capturing some of what we've shared tonight here. That's all I have, really. I don't have any point. I don't have a mic drop moment. It's just I just wanted to add some commentary, and I generally agree with everything that's been said tonight.
Yeah, I think that I was surprised when you said that, Miranda, when you said that you were gonna go for that. I don't think that we should right now. I think that we're in the middle of comp planning. I think that there's plenty of opportunity to figure out whether or not that's the model we want to go with. I hope that town ends up having something for health and human services that is sustainable long-term, not relying on single individuals or individual points of failure, but that really brings the community in. Whatever that ends up being, I'm happy, but maybe not right now.
That sounds good. Yeah, I think I'm fine with that. No health and human services for now. No, it's a good idea that we'll do, and then keep, that relationship is already strong, and you'll just strengthen it with the Peak Health and Human Alliance. I would just say, whatever with regards to this tourism board effort, that whatever, momentum there is to versus more with the chamber, I think would be great. But that's all. Thank you. With that, we will move to Andrew Bliss for the phosphorus IGA with City of Boulder. Is it Andrew, or is it, I didn't really look, or is it
Okay.
Miranda and Andrew?
Thanks. Phosphorus. Yes. We're currently Miranda, myself, with support from our town engineer, JVA, our contract operator, direct discharge, and our town attorney, currently in the process of renegotiating our intergovernmental agreement with the City of Boulder to remove more phosphorus from our wastewater effluent than we have to. Barker Reservoir is a drinking water source for the City of Boulder. Town of Nederland is a major source of phosphorus in Middle Boulder Creek, and phosphorus is a nutrient that grows algae, and algae can cause poor water quality. So the City of Boulder has an incentive for us to release less phosphorus and treat less phosphorus we have to. And I think we all here want to protect the environment, protect public health as much as we want to, as much as we can. And so we want to be a good partner with the City of Boulder. City of Boulder originally paid for part of the construction for the wastewater plant as part of the current IGA. They helped fund the construction of sand filters. It's tertiary treatment before we send it to the creek. And then they've been paying a ongoing operational cost, partial reimbursement for operational costs related to removing phosphorus from our effluent. Over time, both City of Boulder and especially the town has realized that those reimbursements did not cover the full expense of treating, removing phosphorus. And this agreement, the current agreement, is set to expire, I believe, this year. I believe this is the last year. And so we're in the process of renegotiating. And one of the items, I guess the major item, is the financial reimbursement to the town. And after some back and forth, the City of Boulder is willing to reimburse us in the new agreement much closer to our actual expenses. And not only that, but another issue we found was that once in the current agreement, once we are required to remove phosphorus, the reimbursements would end. They're willing to continue to reimburse the town for the first 5 years with this new agreement. They're willing to reimburse us for the first 5 years when we are required to remove phosphorus. The argument there was that if town wasn't removing phosphorus now, we could save up to help pay for the cost of removing phosphorus when we're required to. And so in return for that, the city of Boulder was willing to reimburse us for longer once we get a new permit, which is likely to happen. Our current discharge permit is from 2016 and it's administratively extended, which is very normal for wastewater treatment plants. So the city of Boulder has asked for some kind of direction from the town on these terms before we move on to some other terms in the negotiations. And so what we would like from the board tonight is a general head nod that the board supports these financial reimbursement terms and that we can move on to other terms in our negotiations, which would then come back to the board as well.
Can you describe that 5-year thing? 'Cause I
Yes.
pulled that out as a particular piece because I was like, what the heck does this mean?
Yes.
Say it again slowly.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, no, sorry. I wasn't very clear with that. I don't know if I'll be any clearer. So right with our current agreement,
Mhm.
as soon as the state requires us to reduce more phosphorus below the 1.6 milligrams per liter that Boulder's currently giving us an incentive to reach. As soon as the state requires that of us, Boulder will say, now that you have to do that, we'll no longer reimburse you any of our costs.
When does that happen?
We know. It could happen. It could happen soon.
I see.
Our permit expired in 2016. It's been administratively extended because the state can only update permits so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
The city of Boulder's wastewater plant is also administratively extended. To just give you some perspective here, and the state's likely to move from the largest to the smallest. So technically we could have an updated permit anytime, but we might have some time just knowing that larger plants haven't received their new permit yet either.
I see. And so when that permit comes, irregardless what's happening, as a part of that permit, is that we are now held to that less than 1.6 milligrams per liter.
Correct. Yeah. So this new agreement, so we don't know exactly what our phosphorus limit would be.
Okay.
Talking to our engineer or our ORC, we can be very confident that we will receive a phosphorus limit. Right now, we do not have phosphorus limit on our discharge permit.
Got it.
And so.
But we're just working within those guidelines because that's what Boulder has asked us to do.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
Exactly. Yeah. And so we made the argument that if in this current agreement, we could stop spending money to remove phosphorus and start saving up for when that permit hits.
Got it. Okay.
And so in return for that, they said, okay, once your permit hits, we'll continue to reimburse you for 5 more years.
Okay. Got it. I have one more question here. The first year of the IGA will be the base year for CPI calculations. What's happening there? Walk me through that.
Yeah, it just accounts for inflation.
Okay. So basically whatever the consumer price index is, whatever the inflation rate is there, that is tacked on to this.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly.
Got it. I'm good.
Can I ask, would this reimbursement be going into the water and or fund? Is that how that would work? This would not be coming into general funds.
No, it goes back to water and sewer.
Good.
Sewer specifically.
So, yeah, I wasn't sure which.
What are other clarifying questions for Andrew, Jesse, Tanya?
No, it seems like a pretty straightforward agreement, and I think we should accept it.
I got one for you. On the downside, what if equipment got mucked up, something went wrong? What's our liability? What's our exposure if something happened?
So if equipment went down and we could not meet the terms of this agreement, then we would not qualify for the reimbursement from the city.
And however, there's a provision in there that if a different threshold, it's a half of the amount or something like that, right?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. And that's another big part of this. Our current limit is 1.6. So they are upping our reimbursement, but they're lowering our limit. So we now have to meet a lower limit under this new limit, but we've met that limit 91% of the time since 2013. And you're right. If we don't meet, there's different levels. If we go between 1 and 1.6, we get half the reimbursement. If we go below 1, we get the full reimbursement. If we go above 1.6, then we don't get any reimbursement.
You're talking on an average, or could one incident wipe it out?
A monthly average. We take we do a weekly test for the city of Boulder. Monthly average of those tests.
Okay. Cool. And you're gonna have to buy more equipment or do some more engineering?
No. We currently meet the new threshold 91% of the time with our current work, with our current equipment. And I think there's ways for us to always improve and meet that new limit more consistently. But right now, I don't think we need new equipment. There's been some discussions on making our chemical dosing a little bit more sophisticated, but I think unless the city of Boulder is willing to help us pay for that, we can get by with what we have.
And when you say the new limit, you mean below 1?
Yes. Yeah.
90% of the time, that's an A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A minus.
It's an A minus. Well,
They don't have A minus. I just want to make the comment that Miranda represents the town very well in these negotiations, and has been a huge help in standing up for the town and bringing up the reimbursement. This was a bit of a controversial agreement with previous staff, and
she was like, we're getting more money out of this.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
It works for free.
I was impressed because I know that negotiating with COB can be an SOB.
Can we get that bumper stickered?
Get that in the minutes.
That's our new revenue stream right there. Just kidding, but not really.
So what you're looking for tonight is a nod, right?
Yeah, we need public comment too.
Yeah, and any more clarifying questions, Tanya or Jesse, before we go to public comment? If not, we'll go to public comment.
No, thank
Room
you.
first, if any. If y'all have a comment on the phosphorus IGA with the SLB, COB, now's the time. Did I say it that way? How about
Funny
online?
enough-
Anyone have a comment?
Yeah, Jonathan here. Funny enough, the only comment I have would be if you're talking with City of Boulder about phosphorus in their reservoir, it might be a great time to bring up maybe when they're going to repair Tungsten Trail along that, and in the repair process, if they wanted to incorporate any mechanisms to capture the phosphorus runoff off the CDOT 119 highway. You know, there is phosphorus runoff from the deicers and the salts and whatnot that is used on the highways, as well as just all of the chemicals coming off the highway. And the current state of Tungsten Trail is just completely eroded out. So anything that comes off the highway roads goes directly down into Barker. We want that kind of rebuilt anyway, just for recreation purposes. And it might just be a great time to bring up to the City of Boulder that when you rebuild a trail, you can build it to capture phosphorus and other things with smart wetland ecological plants and whatnot. So just a thought, next time maybe mention that to them, that needs rebuilt, and in rebuilding it, they could also help capture the runoff from the highway.
Mayor Billy, can I comment on that? Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks, Jonathan. Yes.
the City of Boulder did want to bring 3 IGAs together. You've got the Barker Meadow Park IGA, this IGA, and then of course water storage. Going into those conversations, we identified really early on that was not appropriate. They really needed to be handled 3 separate ways. And so conversations are still being held about really more of the Barker, which includes that trail, but wanted to make sure this phosphorus got set as it relates to kind of the water treatment plant. And so still working at City of Boulder, but as Andrew noted, really feel like this is a success for us and that the old IGA just didn't make sense. There's no reason to be in it because we were going to have to pay to be in it. So feel good. So long story short, more to come. There will be more IGAs before you that I think will start to touch on a lot of what Jonathan has just mentioned.
Yeah, it does give me a lot of hope, though, and thanks for bringing that up, Jonathan, that further negotiations with the City of Boulder for all the other things that we need to talk to them about might go better if we're starting to negotiate effectively with them on at least this. I think it gives some cause for hope. And I think we should also not forget widening the Weir Bridge.
Yeah, that's a big one. Thanks, John. We have any other comments from folks online about the phosphorus IGA? If not, we'll bring it back to the board for discussion and some directive.
I believe Trustee Severs was trying to say something before you went to public comment.
John or Jesse, go for it. We can't hear you.
Thanks, Miranda. I don't remember if I was trying to say something, but I have something to say now, which is I'm nodding. Great work. I'm happy to hear that Andrew's report that you're negotiating actively for us, and I have confidence that you're doing great work there. And I trust your judgment on keeping IGAs separate. I think it's great to just negotiate and work out deals with City of Boulder, and I would very much like to ride any momentum that we can establish in closing a deal with them on this and rolling it into working on the Tungsten Trail. I agree, it's in very poor disrepair, and it's dangerous. It's very dangerous right now, the condition that it's in, and also widening the Weir Bridge would very much be in our best interest. So to the extent that that rapport can be established and negotiations can be expanded, you have my full support on that, and keep up the good work.
Nod.
Thank you. Yeah, the question before the board on just real quick is, does the board support the proposed terms and direct staff to move forward with negotiating other terms with the City of Boulder? Got one nod from Jesse.
Second nod from
Tom
Nicole.
or Nicole? Yep. Me, 2, 5. Tanya?
Yeah.
6 nods. Appreciate it. With that, we will move real quick. Does anyone need a break? Before you take one, if you do, or we could take a 5-minute break. How are the folks doing? Okay, we'll go right into our first action item of the evening, the tourism management grant request. Is that Peter?
It's me again. Hi.
Welcome back.
Thank you. So yeah, I am back again with a different request to see if we should pursue this year's tourism management grant. This is a yearly grant that the Colorado Tourism Office designates to give out up to $20,000 to eligible applicants for various tourism management opportunities that they can pursue. And it was another item that came out of Reimagined Destinations and Destination Blueprint to look into creating a single cohesive, not Nederland Visitor Center, but a Visit Nederland informational site where people who are looking to come up here, plan trips, can have one spot to get any information they might need. Just after reviewing it, we wouldn't need to go after that full $20,000 grant. Instead, even I think 10,000 it's a lot for a website, but you can create a very professional, clean-looking website for our purposes with that. This is the same grant that the current branding strategy is coming out of. It's a matching grant. So for every $4 that the CTO gives us, we pledge $1. So the ask is to maybe go after this $10,000 in this grant. And so we'd be matching $2,500, which would come from the visitor center budget. Since as part of that project, we'd be looking to update the flyers and maps and things that we have, which we are already going to plan to do anyway. So it looked like tying those two together was just a smart idea if we wanted to try and knock out two birds with one stone, if that's something we want to do this year.
I just
And I
want
can
to
answer.
really
Yep.
quickly just add that for us, this is tying back to that leveraging of sales tax by being able to have a dedicated website that drives people to events and businesses and can highlight some of those things that we don't always get a chance to do kind of under the government world. It would be nice to have just kind of a dedicated site for that. And so that's why this felt appropriate. We were encouraged by the Colorado Tourism Office to seek this grant for this purpose in mind. And so we do feel like it's a very good grant. And that's why it's before. It is due on the 30th, Peter,
30th.
or 31st, is why
Yep.
it's coming to you today, because you don't have another meeting before.
When does this grant have to be completed by?
The 30th.
No.
Oh, the grant. It's April or July of the next year.
Yeah, it's
So it'd be
typically a year from award
2025.
date. So
Yeah.
April.
2025. Okay. And I see this as one of those line items in destination blueprints. It was to create a website for the for visitors. So I can see it connecting back to that. My question is kind of from a technical standpoint. If we've got our regular website, and then we create this one as a separate entity, what does this look like from a technical standpoint? This is being developed on a completely different platform? How did the
Yes.
two originally or eventually come together? Can you kind of shed some insight on that?
Yeah, so it's pretty common for a town or a community's visitor website to live remotely from its town government website to actually have that like full separation. Right now, we just have a page on ours for the visitor center. It's not robust by any means, but so it would help separate like the tourism side from the government side. So people looking specifically to come up here to see what town has to offer wouldn't have to sort through, a bunch of permits and things to find what they need, for instance. But we would, similar to what we're doing with like the NDDA site when that gets updated, we will have links to it on our main page on the Town of Nederland website.
Okay, so it would be deliberately to keep it separate.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be necessarily a strategy to like integrate the two eventually.
Yeah, the idea is if someone is looking up planning a trip to Nederland, we don't want them to like specifically go to the current page if that doesn't have the information they're looking for.
Oh, sorry, Peter.
Oh no, go for it.
One example would be Estes Park. You've got an Estes Park municipal website. We have a Visit Estes Park. As a visitor, you're going to go to Visit Estes Park. Even as a community member, when you're like, what's happening in town? Because our calendar is Board of Trustees, the DDA, ProSab, not always the fun stuff. And so you want to have a dedicated page that makes it very clean and easy to know, like if I'm looking for the fun things or the businesses or the activities, that this is the site I go to, because it's going to get lost in a municipal government site.
Okay, got it. Now, my next question, coming back to this whole question around priority and what do we support that has priority? One of my questions for you, Peter, is is your plan in place for HB 21-1110, which is all around the accessibility bill that has been passed and that's putting all these municipal governments in a frenzy?
So one of the benefits of our current website is that since it is through a Colorado state entity, they have been working with us pretty directly on that. And we've actually been working on it since early like the moment this website launched, basically. So yeah, like early 2022. So our current website's already ahead of the game on that.
Okay, so there's nothing that we'd have to do to be in compliance by July 1st?
We're already there.
Okay,
With
so for our
maybe a
current site and
few-
for everything on it, like we don't have any more work to do with that?
I'll go through and review everything because I think I still need to add some descriptions to some pictures, but all the main stuff is in compliance.
Okay, because I went through that list today and it is beefy.
It's robust.
So, but again, our website is hosted by the statewide Internet Portal Authority, and so they are mandated to comply with this. And since they host our site, they're going to ensure that compliance.
Okay.
Yeah, most of that was actually done on the back end by them. It's the content piece that we really needed to worry about.
Right, so everything that we upload into the website.
Yep.
That's all in compliance for July?
It is.
Peter, hi, this is Tanya.
Hey.
Have you been to the Lions Colorado website? I really like it. The top has government departments, all that stuff, and then you scroll, and at the bottom it has camping, pay my bill, visit Lions, some other things. And when you click the visit Lions, it goes to another page with some more things to click, and it's really nice, way easy to use, really makes sense. Personally, I'd like to see more money spent on our website to make it much more user friendly, like the Town Alliance ones is. Is there any plans for that? I don't know if you've been to that website or not. It's really good.
So two things I want to mention on this. First of all, yes, I intend to do a complete review of our website to make it a little bit more accessible. It is very limited based just on the platform that we are forced to use through that statewide Internet Portal Authority grant. So I can do some things. It's not going to look this pretty though. Not without some serious coding magic that I don't have access to right now.
So that means, what about this visitor website? Who's going to design that one?
We had hired someone out to do that. Do an RFP, hopefully someone local. Second thing I want to mention, because I'm just kind of perusing it right now, when you click on Lines, it actually does take you to a completely different website.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's on the town website. It's at the bottom.
Well, there's a
And you go
link to it.
visit Lions, and then it looks the same. It's like the same, and
yeah, that's one of the big.
I'm
things.
not convinced it's a whole different website.
It's a different domain
Town
name.
Lions, Lions, Colorado. Yeah, it is different.
So those two are actually
It's
built off
very
of the
well
same,
linked, is what I'm saying.
They're actually built off of the same platform, which is through Civic Plus, which
Yeah, I
is
like
why
it.
they look the same. Yeah. But yeah, we could totally do something like that as well.
I think let me just add though, if you're looking for an overhaul of our website, SIPA is free, so we don't pay for a website. If there's a desire, then you would want to look to up this grant and redesign. I mean, that's just something to consider. It's like the 10,000 is really for a Visit Nederland and the documentation. If you're looking for a municipal, and I'm not sure it's even eligible, but a municipal
not.
website overhaul, it's gonna come with a cost.
Yeah, this grant
is coming through
specifically,
CTO, right?
yeah,
Yep.
needs to be tourism focused.
Yeah,
We
I mean,
could
a lot of
pursue
the-
separate grants. Yeah.
What I'm seeing is that a lot of the places where we looking at them and saying, hey, they do a good job, they also do this, right? Crested Butte has its own visit crestedbutte.com. Steamboat has its own separate website for tourism called like Steamboat or something like that. And their municipal website is different. I do think it makes sense. I do think it's something that pretty much everybody else is doing, and they're doing it for a reason. It is to have an easier portal for folks who are looking to come to town, spend their, tourism dollars here, and not sift through town government, documents and meetings to get there. I do think it makes sense, and I'm currently finding it difficult to be against it.
Yeah, and to clarify, Peter, earlier when I was asking about how to integrate the two, is mostly the question from a technical and back-end standpoint of how to integrate the two platforms so that there's a single platform that we're operating from, not necessarily that the two websites are integrated with each other.
Okay.
So,
Well,
however, saying like Lions is using Civic Plus, because I've actually delved into that platform quite a bit recently. They use it for both visitor management and also their municipal operations, correct? But they're still two separate domains, correct?
And that would probably be, if we want to move away from the SIPA website in the future, we would want to plan that out in advance, like whatever website we do for this through this grant, we would want to look at a platform that we could also migrate our current website to.
Exactly. And that's sort of why I asked the question, is to make sure that we're having thought, because maybe this year we can't get to the website, even though I would love to, but that we're sort of having that foresight that the platform that we choose for, that's what we decide tonight, that platform we choose for tonight is also something that can handle us as a municipal government moving forward as well.
To clarify, this new website would also need to conform to those accessibility requirements, right? And so whatever platform that it was built on would have those baked in, so could feasibly be transitioned to.
Absolutely. But what I'm more asking of is things like Civic Plus has a really good and robust public engagement piece that they use, not just for like, the visitors piece aside, but, all those other tools that we'd want to employ from a municipal operations, and just thinking through that, like, yes, that's something for the future that we'd want to be able to pin down.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I don't know how the licensing works on things like that. Well, in Civic Plus in particular, but I imagine if we would end up paying a license fee for it anyway, if we were going to build out this tourism website.
I think they do it separate. I believe it separately because it's based off domain, and
it is based off
domain.
I
think so, but I could be wrong on that.
Just never know.
Yeah, that's it. Just thinking about what we want to be when we grow up, that kind of thing.
Do we have any other clarifying questions for Peter or Miranda on this? If not, we'll go to public comment. Public comment from in the room? On up, and your name and your relationship to Ned and your comment.
Hi there. My name's Luke Miller.
You got to get pretty close to it so they can hear you.
All right. My name's Luke Miller. I'm a town resident and been a web and software developer for 20 plus years. And so my familiarity with websites and such is pretty good. Specifically worked with CAIC, Colorado Avalanche Center, but worked on the Colorado State US sites, worked on Colorado.gov sites, familiar with Drupal, which is the platform all this stuff is built on.
Oh gosh, is it really? It's built on Drupal?
The Colorado.gov is, yeah.
Oh, you people, I'm sorry. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that.
Yeah.
Poor Peter.
All that said, I think that, there are really cohesive ways to work through these kinds of things and have coordinated identity and presence for a tourism-focused Visit Nederland website and a municipal Town of Nederland website. And we can have those two well aligned and easy to navigate. I think that's not very difficult. I think the budget required to do these kinds of things is usually a lot less than most towns spend. So I certainly have some personal references of agencies I think could do this work very well. So I'd be glad to contribute that to the town.
Thanks, Lou.
And just as an aside, Nicole, if you ever want to hear about the actual nightmare that this last Drupal update was, stop by the office sometime.
I seriously took a Drupal class like 20 years ago, and I said, who would create something like this? I mean, even back then, but anyway, we're done.
State governments, that's your
State governments. that's
And
it.
state universities.
Oh gosh, yeah. Anyway, okay, I'm done.
Thanks for the comment, Luke. Any other comments in the room? Okay, thanks.
No, now it's on. Max Ovet, town resident of Nederland. I think having a Visit Nederland website would be great for both the tourism aspect, but also for the town residents, knowing what's going on, being able to go somewhere and figure out what music venues and what's playing where would be fantastic. Otherwise, I mean, I can go walk around town in 5 minutes and see it, but it is fun to be able to check and see what's going on and invite friends up. So I'm all for it.
Thanks, Max. Any other comments in the room? If not, we'll go to folks online. If you have any comment on this,
I did have to mute a call-in user. So
okay.
*6.
Raise your hand, or if you're calling in, *6 on your phone.
I see Tanya's hand is up, but I didn't know, Tanya, are you going to wait for discussion, Trustee Gorlin? Otherwise, it's Kathleen.
No, I didn't take it down. I'll take it down.
Thank you.
Okay, and then Kathleen, *6.
Kathleen, *6 when you're ready.
Me? Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Kathleen Chip, I guess I confused part of my public comment from the last tourism discussion. I'm against taking money and more money for a tourism website than we are putting into making a workable town website. I'm reading in this packet that it took Peter a month to create the website we have. And he took data that was inaccurate and transferred it over to the new website, which made no sense to me. But the Netherlands Maine's website is not usable. It's not user-friendly. It's not user-friendly. I have people call me all the time going, well, I'm trying to find something on Netherlands website. Can you help me? Because it's not user-friendly. And I want to thank Tanya for bringing up Lions. Crested Butte website is very much the same, just easy. Everything's on one page. You don't need to be scrolling down looking for things. I want more invested in the residents' actual website than I do a tourism website. And once again, because of grants, I'm against grants because they end up directing the future of our community instead of the people directing our future. And that's why I think we have 2 tourism options on the agenda today when this isn't even close to being an emergency situation or urgent or any of it for the tourism. It just blows my mind. So again, I'm against more money going into the tourist website, and I am for getting our own website together to make it easy to use for people. It's really not. And I really, when we redo our website, want the business section under construction on the front page taken off. Year after year is staring at that and looking at businesses from the year 2000 and to 2008 is not, it's not helpful to anybody. Why is it even on the current website? Why was it transferred from the old? It's just, it's sad. And people in the community need more invested in them than tourists. Okay? So that's where I stand. Thank you.
Tanya.
Hi, can you hear me? I'm Tanya Unger, resident of Nederland 550 West 3rd Street and employee of the Mountaineer. Just shameless plug, if you're looking for events out there, and so that we don't duplicate a lot of efforts, the Mountaineer as well as Ned2Go have extensive events calendars with music on them.
Thanks, Tanya. Are there other comments with folks online? Any other comments from the folks online? Oh.
So just to get it straight, if you get this grant, you're not binded by the same platform the Town of Netherlands website's binded to use? And how can we maybe get out of the platform we're using for Town of Net to actually use something that's not so horrible that people are saying is so horrible?
No, we're not bound.
Yeah, correct. We're not bound to use that. The current website, in 2021, we applied for a SIPA grant, which instead of giving us money, gave us this platform to use for the website. So we would need to basically either find funds to migrate our website or move to just build a new one on a different platform.
Okay, so it was kind of a gift that wasn't really a gift because it's so hard to use.
Right. I don't think we recognized at the time. I mean, our old
Sure, you
website.
didn't know.
had
Right, of
its
course.
perks, and we didn't know. And yeah, I mean, at this point, you have not budgeted for a new website. And so
No, I know
maybe
that.
that's something to look at for 2025. Yeah, there, I mean, Civic Plus, as Trustee Sterling noted, is incredible. And there's a lot of other tools. Granicus hosts Engage Nederland. They also could host our municipal website. They're out there, and we're happy to bring that forward as a part of future budget conversations. But I really feel like this site, a Visit Nederland site, really just should be held separately and with have a website designer support us, because as Peter noted, even in this AIM just took him a substantial amount of time to even just create what we have, which we know has its quirks, but does contain the information needed for municipal government.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I have a lot less than some other folks do, and that's fair enough that other folks have trouble with it. I mean, yes, it's not the most gorgeous thing in the world. It's better than what was there before. So I'm still happy that we did it. I find it more navigable, I guess, than most folks do.
Navigable.
Yes, but a Visit Nederland website. I mean, the way that SEO works, right, is that you need to have links to other domains, right, and then things are going to rise in your search results. So even if the Mountaineer does have pages that tell us about events, if there's a Visit Nederland website linking to the Mountaineer, right, in order for people to read about that, it's going to rise in search results, and people are going to have an easier time figuring out what's going on in town. I just think it makes sense to have this kind of a thing. Every other town's doing it. I know, like, people like to say this is Nederland, not every other town, but sometimes they're doing it for a reason.
So you're looking for a nod of 4? Is that what's going on here?
This is actually an action item. And,
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I was scrolling.
We didn't
Yeah.
sorry, we didn't put any proposed motions, but really it would be, do you approve town staff applying for the tourism management grant for a Visit Nederland website.
I'm ambivalent about it personally, so everybody else is for it. I'm not gonna get in the way of that. It's not a big deal one way or another. So no motion for me, but.
Good. Okay.
Okay. Jesse, do you have any comments?
Pretty similar to Tanya, pretty ambivalent. I really kind of appreciate what Kathleen mentioned. Existing website and opportunities for improvement. It'd be nice to see some focus there. However, I'm generally in favor of applying for grant money and bringing in revenue from outside sources. And if we have to apply that towards a tourism website, I'm fine with that. I'm happy to go along with this if there's some compelling arguments from the board in favor.
Oh, I do have one more question for Peter. What is the status of the Netter Days website? Would that website just be folded into this new Visit Nederland, since it's just a facet of it, is that a Town of Nederland website? Who made that website?
I did. It is owned by Town Nederland, but it works as a single event page, basically.
Gotcha.
So we could fold it in.
Seems like
save
that's
us
the
a
whole
little
point of
bit
this
money.
website, is to fold everything in one place.
Yeah.
That's what I would like to see out of this website if we do get it, is not like have everything either in the Town of Ned website or here. But not like all over the place, and that's so that you can find it easily.
Right.
Any more comments from the board? Any motions from the board? Questions before the board are on page 78 of the packet. I'll go ahead and make a motion to I'm getting my words straight here. Someone else get your words.
There we go. We shot down the tourism advisory board.
I move to approve.
Thank you. I was get my words.
It's okay. Let me take it here. I move to approve the tourism grant to fund this project, allocating up to 20,000 in grant funding for build out the website.
Maybe, I'm sorry, we should have put a proposed motion. We're only asking for 10,000 in the grant.
But isn't the other 10,000 going towards maps?
It would be 2,500 that we match.
Yeah.
Right, but
we don't want to go for the whole 20,000. We're asking to go for 10,000 with a $2,500 match that would come out of the visitor center. So your motion, if you support this, would be to direct staff to apply for the tourism management grant for 10,000.
Okay, and just to be clear, that 10,000 will cover the website and the printing maps that is outlined here in the AIM.
Correct, and we would bring a match of 2,500.
Okay, I move to approve the applying for the tourism grant for
Tourism management grant.
tourism management grant for 10,000.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, Macy?
Trustee Sterling,
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
Mayor Billy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahol,
Yes.
Trustee Severs,
Yes.
and Trustee Corvalon.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate that. With that, to our next action item of the evening, the BOT vacancy applicants interviews for appointment. Miranda and Macy.
All right. So tonight we are discussing we are conducting the applicant interviews to potentially fill the vacancy that is currently on the Board of Trustees. So on October 17th, John Mountain resigned as a trustee. And at the meeting on December 5th, the Board of Trustees adopted Resolution 2023-50, filling the vacancy through the regularly scheduled election. However, they also directed town staff to release applications for the vacancy, which would allow the board to appointment if they so choose. So the town has released applications to fill the vacancy, and the deadline to submit an application was 6 p.m. on Friday, January 12th. The following candidates have submitted complete applications: Riley McAllister, Luke Miller, Aaron Ty, and Max Ovett. It should be noted that Tierney Maris submitted an application for appointment, and since she has only been a Nederland resident since March 25th, 2023, she is not eligible for appointment, but will be eligible for election.
The applicant, John, did he drop, or we never received one?
The only complete
John
applications that I received for the BOT vacancy were from Riley McAllister, Luke Miller, Aaron Ty, Max Ovett.
John and Brian didn't.
Yeah, there were two individuals who attended the BOT orientation who did not submit for the vacancy, but it is my understanding that they do anticipate they are circulating nomination petitions.
Cool. Thank you. That's what I needed to know. Yep.
So all of the applicants mentioned this evening are with us this evening, so they can participate in your interview process. And it should be noted that they all attended the BOT orientation that was a part of the application process.
And they all are aware that we do not have to make a decision tonight to appoint you, correct?
Yes, that should be noted. Thank you, Trustee Sterling. And it is important to note that if appointed, this person will hold office until the next regular election on April 2nd, 2024. And then the seat is again open for filling by whoever is chosen during the election.
Thank you. Well said. With that, anything else, Miranda, you want to add? I was just going to kind of give a general idea how we're going to do this.
No, did you want me to go over my recommendation?
Sure.
I just wanted to offer a recommendation that obviously rather than having
thanks.
them alternate on the microphone, you invite the candidates to sit up here. They can experience what it's like. And then of course they'd all have access to their own microphones.
And you can drink the water.
You can drink the water.
Drink the Kool-Aid.
Right. Yes, my recommendation would be.
So if you want, a couple of y'all could be on this side, a couple of you can be on that side.
Just so you all know, you do have to press the push button. It'll light up. That's how they'll hear you online.
Here's
But
right
please
wing and
turn
left
the
wing,
push
careful.
button off when you're not speaking. Otherwise, you get feedback with each other.
And a small LED, green LED light will come on at the base when you would talk. And
And for
sometimes
those-
you got to be close to it.
Sorry, really quick, for those online, since, a lot of people online, I think, get used to our voice, but we need to get in a better habit of announcing ourselves. It would be good before each applicant speaks to announce who you are, so those online can recognize who's speaking.
So we'll just go around and have each individual just tell us what kind of your intro and why you want to be on the board. And from that, we would likely ask some questions.
So
And we'll
really-
go one at a time.
Okay, so one person at a time will give their intro and then we ask questions of them.
Yeah, they'll give her intro and why you'd like to be on the board, and then we'll ask you questions. And then a public comment will happen too at probably, some point after that, after you've all spoken. And then, we'll be asking you clarifying questions initially, then the public comment, and then we'll come back and have discussion, and likely we'll have more questions then. So with that, I'm just gonna start here and go with Max and just go Max, Ty, Luke, and Riley.
Max Ovett, resident of Ned over in Old Town. I am interested in being in part of the board because Nederland is growing and we're evolving, and I want to help us evolve and grow into the way we want to be as a community and not just the way we're going. So I would like to see that move forward and the community develop.
Thank you.
Which way are we going in?
Sometimes it's positive from the outlook, and then other times it looks a little bit negative.
Be specific.
With I mean, we're moving forward with the logo redesign, which looks good as far as moving forward with a new rebranding. Now, as far as the town and the feedback from that logo, do we all agree with it? No. Do we need to move forward and make a decision? Yes. Is our infrastructure aging and falling apart? Yes. Do we need to move forward with that? Yes. So
Okay, what was your understanding of the board's stance on the logo?
that we had parts of it that we liked, such as the font, but other parts, such as the actual logo itself, was not received well by the community.
No, what did the board say about it?
I would have to go review the board
Okay.
again.
Yeah, just for everyone's edification,
Legit answer.
the board did not agree with the direction either. We were not in favor of it. We did not like it. But all of a sudden it was coming back to the board that we had approved that logo and it's 100% BS. So just so everyone's know. So way to go first, Max. Well done. No, but on another note, you said that you aim to advocate for policies and initiatives that promote environmental stewardship, recreational opportunities, and overall well-being of residents. What does that mean? Because it means a lot of high-level things, but I'd like to get to some nitty-gritty of what you foresee.
Yeah, as far as the environmental stewardship, really helping improve the environment and doing what's right for our local infrastructure and for our town. There's ways we can build infrastructure that is sustainable and done in the correct way that manages water and drainages and so forth. We can redo our assets so that we're going in the correct manner and building in a sustainable way.
Okay. Someone else want to go? I'll come back if my question isn't answered next.
I mean, so I have a question, and I'll ask everyone the same one. There's definitely no right answer here, but I find that I've often been faced on this board with having to make decisions that try to balance expediency versus community involvement, that have to balance what I might believe is for the greater good versus the impacts that it might have on a local neighborhood. So my question is, how do you value those various tensions, and what would your decision-making process be if faced with that kind of choice?
Yeah, that's a fun question and a very broad and more of a discussion than an actual like 3-minute answer that I could actually answer. I would say we need to take the input, and then when we are on a timeline, we have to make a decision. We have to take all of that input, the research, what we're getting in from all of the town, as well as the people who are feeding that information to us, and then we need to make a decision. We're not going to have not everybody's going to be happy. There's always going to be an unforeseen consequence of when we choose something, but we have to accept that, and that's why we're here to do that.
Thanks.
Thanks, Max. More questions for Max? Tanya, Jesse?
Yeah, I have one. So like the past couple of years, we've had a lot of big issues, controversial issues, some of it being the police department, some of it being creating our annexation policy, then smaller ones that create a lot of feedback, like our pump track idea, or what isn't really the BOT's project, but it's ProSab, the Teens Inc. potentially taking over public space. I'm wondering if any of those issues you've been following at IWOT level, not necessarily just social media, and which one of those issues felt to you as something that resonated with you? And it could be any other issue as well. Just anything that's been going on past couple of years. Has there been anything that really got you interested and said, I want to join the board?
The pump track was one, but realistically, it's the childcare. My brother and sister-in-law, Sam and Jenna Ovett, live up on Ridge Road, along with Trinity and Jake Wells. And then the rest of the neighborhood up there, there's about 5 to 6 kids, if I'm doing my math right, underneath one right now in that neighborhood, and seeing all of them work together to try and figure out childcare up here and how they're managing it. They're passing off their kids between so everyone can get to work and be a part of the community. So childcare is really one of the ones that kind of drove me. It's like, yeah, if we want to see it, they can't get involved. They're not technically in town of Ned. I can.
Right.
So I want to be involved.
Great.
I can advocate for them. So
Great. Thank you.
One more question. What are you going to bring to the board that provides a diverse perspective?
I think I can bring to the board my perspective from my engineering background, from my forensic engineering background, as well as my time in Eagle Scouts and spending time in Georgia, where I grew up, and how I developed through there and all the different community involvement within Georgia. And that kind of aspect of we're very much rooted into our community there.
Great. And who did you meet with on the board to learn more about it?
Jesse Sievers and then Tom.
Okay.
Everything.
No, we thrashed everything out.
Jesse? Thanks. Any questions? If not, it's fine. We're not all obligated to ask everyone questions. I just wanted to give you a chance. If not, we will go clockwise. Jesse, was that you?
No, I'll probably ask Max a question or two as we get on with it, but
Okay.
for now,
Yeah, these are probably, maybe we should all look at these more as clarifying questions, I guess, just for sake of focus. Aaron.
Aaron Ty. I've been a resident of Nederland for about 8 years now. I've worked at ACE. I was a Nederland police officer for a short amount of time. I currently work at the transfer station, and I am a town handyman. I really don't work outside of town. I'm interested in joining the Board of Trustees because I talk to pretty much every echelon of person in town, considering all the places I have worked. A lot of these issues come up in pretty much every place I've worked. You work at ACE, people meet each other there. This is where these conversations are sparked, and generally as part of a lot of those conversations. Same with police work, same with the transfer station. Working at people's houses, they're standing there talking to me while I'm fixing their whatever needs to be fixed, and they bring up these issues with me anyways, just to make conversation. I feel like I bring a bipartisan approach to this because I do have my own opinion on a lot of these issues, but I also like to look at it from both sides. I like to get all the facts before I really make a strong decision on things, and I'm able to bring up the opposing facts to or information that I know of at the time to people who maybe hold issue with some of the problems we face in this town. Thank you.
Thanks. Why did you want to raise kids here?
Because, I started off just coming up to this town to kind of explore nature up here because I lived in Boulder. And I grew up in a small community. My wife grew up in a small community. People just know each other. It's just tighter knit, and it kind of, I like the whole idea of it takes a tribe to raise a child. So in a smaller community, they get a lot more influence from a lot of people compared to, a bigger city like Boulder where people just kind of seem to rush by and maybe you're friends with them for a year and then they move on to bigger and better things.
Thanks.
So in your letter to us, you said that you want to control how Nederland grows. What do you mean by that? Like, what are some specifics?
I mean by that, a fear I have, I mean, we're pretty good about kind of looking at anybody trying to come in to open some kind of business, or as far as I've seen, we're pretty good at controlling that, but growth's inevitable. It's going to happen regardless of what anybody wants. I hear a lot of people say how they don't want anything to change in Ned, or they don't want, certain buildings. So that's iconic. Unfortunately, some of these buildings are old and they need to be torn down. They're dangerous. They have asbestos and they have lead in them. They have, all sorts of things. But I think the town of Ned needs to grow, but I'd like to have a little bit more influence on that and make sure it's growing in the way that the town wants it to grow.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Kind of, yeah. Like, I mean, because everyone's kind of got ideas of like what that means.
Sure.
Right. But like, if you could pinpoint one thing, you're like, this can't happen for me, or whatnot, like, what would that be in terms of the growth?
I don't want to see Nederland. I grew up in Castle Rock, Colorado. We used to go to Cripple Creek a lot. I loved going up there. It was a lot of fun. But then I watched a lot of influences come in from surrounding, because people are kind of discovering Cripple Creek, and it kind of exploded and it turned into this kind of like Blackhawk. Like, you walk around Blackhawk, you're like, oh, let's go see Blackhawk, or let's go see Central City. Let's see. You can't go anywhere. It's all casinos. Like, there's nothing to see anymore. I don't want it to turn into that. I don't want it to turn into this place that looks really pretty in pictures, but you go there and there's not a lot to do. There's a lot of, outside influences in there.
Another line I picked up out of your letter, I'd love to see, or something along people engaging fully to express concern and approval of town activities instead of ranting on social media. Can you give us an example?
That happens on social media?
Yeah,
I'll have to start reading it.
Bring up the logo, because the BOT took a lot of heat for that, saying that we had approved this damn logo that none of us had approved of.
When I was walking around with my petition for people to sign, they're like, what do you think of the logo? And I went, honestly, I haven't even seen it yet. I should. I do frequent Facebook. Occasionally, I try to not get too roped into too much social media. Obviously, I'm going to have to get in there a little more. I mean, it kind of happened as a police officer. I had to kind of be engaged with Facebook a little bit more, because it helped me out with my job. Honestly, if I needed to find somebody, I just need to figure out what they look like, I can do that.
But it's a very specific comment. You don't want people ranting on social media.
Yeah, I'd rather, it's not that I don't want them ranting necessarily, but I'd rather see them come talk to us, or bring it up to us and join the meetings, not just sit in the background and just be angry about it, but actually be part of it.
Cool.
Including all age groups, it's not just adults that live in this town, it's kids too. They have an opinion. I forgot to mention, one of my many jobs was high school security guard at Ned Middle Senior.
God bless you.
Yeah, I know. It was a tough one.
One last question for me. You have a history here with Ned.
Yes.
So where are you jaded, and where do you have hope?
Let's see. Where am I jaded? I don't have a lot of jadedness going on quite at the moment. I have hope that.
Oh, you can't skip the question.
I can't.
No,
skip
you can't skip it. You got to answer it.
I'm a little jaded on, I don't know if this works, but I'm going to go with it. As far as, discussion with where they're going to put it, they want to put a second bridge. I'm struggling with that in my head. Where are they going to put that? I am a resident of Old Town. And I'm terrified they're going to run it right.
You mean through Wolftown?
Old Town?
Or Okay, but you're afraid that they're going to run it through where?
Right through Old Town.
Oh, the Wilton connection. No.
Yeah.
Don't
So you're safe. Um, you know, I hope that counts as jaded for you.
Okay, it counts as dated. I'll take it.
Okay.
And we're
Just sneered a little more.
Yeah. Where I have hope is I heard, listening to the discussion about, having a butcher shop and all these little niche things that people have other options besides BNF, and, bless BNF. They're there when we need them. But I'm excited to see where Nederland goes from here. It's getting more and more popular. It's not just this necessarily quiet little mountain town anymore, as much as, I want it to stay that way. But I have a lot of hope to see where this goes and how we grow from here.
Okay, I'm done.
Thanks. Other questions for Ty?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of answered it in, roundabout ways, but I'll just rephrase mine, which is when you're balancing like a local neighbor versus greater good for the town, or getting something done in an expedient manner versus getting public engagement. How do you navigate those challenges? Where do your values lie there?
I navigate those like I would navigate my current job. I have to present to people, do you want it to look really, really nice, or do you want me to be out of your house in 2 days? I believe I can find that balance of trying to get public opinion and trying to get as much as we can, information as we can, but reaching that deadline we need to make, like making that hard decision. When you go fishing, you don't catch all the fish. You're not going to use everybody, and I'm prepared to take that on. As much as I like pleasing people, I know I can't please everybody. Does that answer your question?
Sure does.
Wake up one morning and
Thank you, Siri.
More questions for Aaron, Ty? Tanya, Jesse?
Oh, yeah, I can ask him something similar to what I asked Max. Just, is there any issue in particular that's currently or recently been a hot issue for the BOT that was interesting to you, that you felt perhaps a motivation for joining the board, or no?
I really can't say that. And I'm not going to lie. I probably don't have all the information I should have on a lot of the most current issues.
Okay.
Not that I'm not interested. It's just, it hasn't come across my clipboard yet.
Thank you.
Similar question. Who have you met with in order to learn about the board?
Mayor Billy.
Okay, thank you.
Jesse, any questions?
No questions for me at this time.
Thanks. Anyone else? Tom? Okay. Luke?
My name is Luke Miller. My family and I moved up to Nederland from Boulder a couple years ago. But as some of you already know, Nederland is my hometown. I was born at home on Caribou Road and went to first grade in this building. So that's some roots, and I never expected to move back to Nederland. But when we moved down to Boulder, there wasn't a lot here for families in the early 70s. But Netherlands, I think, is one of those towns that's actually, it's really matured and it's improved. And the community here has become something that is really great. It's a great place to live as a family. And I think that speaks a lot to what Nederland has decided it wants to become. And that's something I would like to be a part of. currently, I have a son who's in his second year at Nederland Middle High School, and he loves it here. This is he's as happy as any, I don't know how many kids are happy in middle school, but he is as happy as any kid could be. And a lot of that is because of the community and the people and the families in this town. And I think that this long history of, I have a lot of childhood friends who are deeply involved in the community here. And I think that gives me the perspective of old Nederland and current Nederland, and through my son, a hope for a future Nederland. So personally, I've worked at Eldora. I've spent a lot of time doing stuff in this town. And so it's always felt a little bit like home, even when I didn't live here. I've also been a small business owner up until very recently, which I think is important to understanding a lot of the issues that face the town. We actually were a co-op structured business, B Corp, repeatedly voted as like best for Colorado, best for the world. So very community-minded business. We, as I mentioned earlier in my public comment, we worked a lot with government, municipal agencies. So I've dealt with that sort of that dynamic of working with public entities. I'm really excited to learn in this role as a BOT. I think that this is a great opportunity to learn more about how the town works. And the only other thing I really wanted to say is in the town objectives, future objectives packet, one of the first items is securing the water supply. I was a environmental studies, hydrology, water resource major in school, and though I went on to use that professionally, that aspect of water is a really important thing in the Western United States. So I think it's a super important thing to have the town focus on.
Thanks, Luke. What questions for Luke?
I don't have to go first this time.
Well, my question, because it's like, to give it, I guess, slightly more context as well. It's like, it's all well and good to love this community, but, sometimes there's a neighborhood that says, we don't want this. And yet, it's the best thing for the town. Sometimes there's a grant deadline and you're supposed to get community feedback. Do you privilege the deadline or the community feedback? Like, how do you navigate those?
Yeah, this sounds like a certain fire egress problem. I mean, at the end of the day, we answer to the residents of Nederland. That's who we're responsible to, and it's our job to take their feedback and at the same time understand that we can't make everybody happy, and it's our job to do what's best for the town. And so you have to strike the balance, as everybody says, strike the balance of listening to what people have to say and then just make the decision. And I think that Nicole mentioned frustration and a hope, or whatever, I can't remember your wording, but I think one of the things that's been a challenge for the town is actually making decisions, because you're going to make a bunch of people upset. And I think that's something that has been a frustration of mine about the town. And I think that's something that we can really move ahead with, is just to be like, okay, we got to make a decision.
Great, thank you.
Tanya and Jesse.
I'll just ask the same question I've been asking about what's the main issue of the past couple of years that has been interesting to you?
Yeah, there's a lot. Obviously, the mountain bike and recreational infrastructure was something that's been really important to me. As I've gotten more involved in what does it mean to be on the BOT, other things have really come to the front, the water thing, transportation. It was actually Miranda's transportation presentation that really kind of kicked off one of my sparks of wanting to be on the BOT. The infrastructure that we have in the like municipal infrastructure in downtown is a big deal. There's actually there's a lot of stuff. I feel like I have a spark for a half a dozen issues.
Did you hear that? Okay, Tanya.
I did hear that. Thank you.
Jesse?
I'll try to speak closer to the mic.
Yeah, I gotta eat the thing. Jesse?
No specific questions for Luke at the moment.
Good.
Okay. So you come across as a pretty laid back diplomatic person. You could even kind of read that in your letter. So I'm interested, what else do you have to offer to Netherlands? What's that unique, diverse perspective you're going to present to us, or that you're going to be able to provide to us?
Well, diverse, I'm not sure what we were going for there. I mean,
Go ahead, read into it how you want.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Netherlands has a lot of a pretty wide range of socioeconomic people living here, and I think it's hard to put ourselves in everybody else and anybody else's shoes so much that you can understand, where every person is coming from. But I feel like I've been in a wide enough range of experiences in my life that I can find some way to connect with almost anybody's problem. And so being able to listen to somebody who's like, hey, I can't find a place to live, versus somebody who maybe is just like, hey, my power goes out too often and my Wi-Fi goes down, or I want better mountain bike trails. Like, you got first world problems and you've got like, I need a place to live problems. So I think that's something you need to just be able to look at a full spectrum.
Okay. In your letter, you had talked about being able to work through some of the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. What are those that come to your mind when you say that sentence?
Well, I have to confess, I mean, the challenges, we're facing the downtown development, we're facing the bridge, we're facing transportation. Every ski season, we see traffic backing up through town. And so I think those are kind of the things I find challenging. The things I think that is like opportunistic is really community. I feel like it's the community that's made Netherlands what it is, that's why we're all here. I think investing in the community and making everybody feel like they're a part of this town is really important.
Okay. And who did you talk to learn more about the board?
I've talked to Tom, Billy, and Jesse.
Why'd you guys want to raise Felix here versus Boulder?
He didn't want to live in Boulder anymore. No, we didn't either. No, really, he's even when we lived in Boulder, he always said he felt like a mountain kid. So it's been a much better experience for him.
Thanks.
I'm super curious. How well do you know Jesse? Because it's almost like I'm talking to him in some regards.
Jesse and I have an extraordinary weird life overlaps.
Yeah.
Probably more than almost anybody I've ever met.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Just wanted to make sure I was picking up on that vibe, because I was like, what is going on here?
It's funny. I do not get that vibe at all. It's funny. I must see them totally differently.
Bad thing. It's not a bad thing. I love Jesse to death, but.
Any more questions for Luke? Riley?
All right, my name is Riley McAllister. I'm the Health and Safety Director for American Clean Resource Group. I've been a Netherlands resident for 6 years as of last Monday. What brought me up here was I was born and raised in Evergreen, Colorado, Went to school in Arizona, and I could not get back to the mountains fast enough. I just did not like the big city vibe, even though Flagstaff is not that big of a city. And came back and went to Evergreen for a bit, and then kind of felt Nederland calling. I came up here originally to work alongside Tom Hendricks, and he kind of introduced me to this special place. Just walking around with him the first couple of months and seeing the way that I'm just a man, loved him. I mean, just getting waves on every corner, smiles. It made it feel like I was walking around with a hero. And to have him as a mentor and to train and just really show me the compassion and the loyalty and the community that Nederland really is. I love it. I consider this my home. Plan to be here for a long time. I know I'm younger than a lot of the applicants, but I got a lot of energy, a lot of time.
You're not younger than the board though, right?
Not than the board, no.
Okay, just want to make sure here.
No, but no, my specialty is in health and safety. My forte is weeding through opinion and using fact to come to a reasonable understanding and agreement, whether people like it or not. Unfortunately, life isn't simple. You can't please everyone. You have to make hard decisions. Now, granted, you can listen to all the opinions out there. You can take all of them to heart, but I see a board as being a core group of people that you trust their opinions. You trust that they take the advice from the town surrounding them, take it all into account, and make the proper decision based on all of that information, whether it be personal bias or town ferocity. I mean, there's a lot of things that can go wrong with having too much opinion, but also a lot of things that can go wrong without having any opinion. So it's a very fine line where there's no equation where it's going to be a perfect 50-50. I liked your 80-20 analogy earlier. It's a good one, and I feel like it almost applies to the board, and not as the board's direction of it, but the community's involvement. I see a lot of stuff online where people go up in flames instantly without getting the facts behind things. They like to go out and scream from the top of their rooftops, but looking here, I'm not seeing very many people screaming in the room.
Isn't that so interesting?
It really is.
Like, wow.
We don't
So,
need to encourage
then
screaming
again,
in the
it
room.
really- it goes back to, I see a lot of opinions. I see a lot of changes that need to be made, but I just would like to be part of that group or to vote for that group that I trust in making those decisions for us as a whole. Talk about this all day long, but I'll end it right there.
Well, I do believe you answered my question, so thanks for that.
In your letter, you said that you wish to serve the town to resolve issues. So what are the issues that bubble up for you the most?
Well, the one that when I previously ran, the big one for me was the town code. When you sit there and try to read it A to Z, there's a whole lot going on there. And I wouldn't say maybe it's not the information's not there, but the accessibility of it, and for a generic civilian coming in and saying, hey, I want to look at this issue, this point here, it's really hard to navigate it. It took me probably 6 or 7 times reading through with sticky notes, highlighting annotations to even get a basic understanding of stuff I was looking for. It's just more of a fundamental core. You have to build a good foundation to then build a building. If your foundation isn't strong, how can you go up from there? So maybe not generic issues on, I mean, we could go into it all night long with the bridge and everything else, but more as how are we going to govern what we are doing, the policies of doing it, and how are we going to do that effectively every time, and how are we going to take opinion in? I mean, as you said, you're not going to make everyone happy. Sometimes you might not make anyone happy, but that's the duty of the board, is to take all those opinions, take all the facts, make a base decision.
So let's take that town code as an example. And so Riley comes in and he's like, dude, this town code sucks.
Here's a great one. How many fish can you own in Netherlands?
Okay. So
I'm just
Only 5.
yeah, we can't do,
So, I mean, I don't want to go ripping into, we could
Right.
be here all night with that. But I mean, there's just some very.
That was an awesome response.
Example,
That was
yeah.
really, really good. Nicely done.
So knowing that you are passionate about the town code, what are some things that are happening this year that potentially make updating that town code done well? Or I don't know if I'm asking, you know, what are some things that are going on this year that's going to really commit us to making sure that town code is written well?
I look at the code as a template, same as like a schedule for a test, a meeting, anything else. You have it all laid out exactly how you go to A to B to C to D, whether it be a bridge expansion, whether it be, hey, I want to throw a 100-person volleyball tournament at the park and play music until 9:01. Or, I mean, just an easy way for us to then take these, put it in. I'm not saying the template's going to be the same for every issue, because of course it's not going to be, but to just have it compartmentalized and say, okay, we're starting with the bridge. Now let's go to permitting. Let's go to what are the issues with it, and just have a nice code instead of jumping all over the place and trying to consolidate it all at the end. I think it's just more structure. The structure is what I'm trying to get at, I guess.
Okay. What are you going to bring that's diverse perspective to the board?
Well, personally, I've been to 47 countries. I've been to the richest of the rich, and I've been with I wouldn't even call them poor, but the most, there's the Embera Indian tribe in Panama, and they had grass skirts, and I brought them pencils, and it was the greatest thing ever. So, I mean, just being able to take cultural differences, institutionalized education, and meld them together to deal with any race, religion, opinion, belief, bias, just kind of take it all and deal with everyone with the same respect that I would like to receive.
How many times have you ran for board?
This is my 3rd time now.
Okay. So why is now the time? Why appoint you now? Or what's happened in the last 3 times that you think?
I think I didn't get my voice out. I think I was a little intimidated by the process, by the board, not understanding.
Yeah, we're not that scary.
The old board, though.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we'll go with the previous board. So you guys are.
That
No,
one's a little scary.
I think it took me the 6 years of being up here to dive into all the different issues. I mean, just to get my head wrapped around. I mean, not just what you hear in one location, but stepping back and talking to the business owners, talking to the people in the streets. I mean, it took me long just to even figure out this 10 square block town. I'm passionate. I got a lot of energy, but I don't think I fully wrapped my head around of what I was trying to do. And I had a great goal, but not the steps and the plans to get there.
What was your goal?
To be a part of this town and represent people exactly how I would want to be represented.
Okay, gotcha. Done.
Tanya, Jesse?
Well, you kind of answered about the issues that you're, sorry, it clipped off. You kind of answered about the issues you're most interested in, talking about the code, but is there anything else of current events sort of that are going to be voted on soon or were recently voted upon that you have a strong opinion about, that you kind of wished you were part of the conversation? Or is there anything like a topic other than the code that kind of gets you interested?
Yeah, I definitely do have a strong opinion. Mental health and health services. That is a major one for me. I've known a lot of people who struggle with mental health, seen a lot of people with physical ailments. I mean, all of us in this room here, at one point or another, have probably run into someone struggling. Having resources and availability at ease. Because someone who's struggling isn't going to go out of their way and set up an appointment a month ahead. When they're struggling and when they hit that, they need service that day, within 48 hours, 24 hours. They need someone they can call that moment when they're feeling uncomfortable. I mean, that has just always been, not just for this town, but everywhere. Mental health standards and physical health standards are definitely a big issue for me. And I'm passionate about it, but also I can be swayed with a good facts.
So how do you think being on the board could help get better mental health care to the town of Ned?
I mean, anything that comes into the town is reviewed by the board. We have our finger on the pulse. We're able to either say, hey, this is a good idea, start looking into it, do more research, and then bring it to the town when it's already a formulated thought, rather than waiting for other people to do it, going out and doing just a blind survey of how people react to it. I would say just more asking the difficult questions that no one wants to ask. Digging into the nitty gritty and just being able to make sure that it is the appropriate representation for our population.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Who'd you meet with on the board?
This current round, other than just in the grocery store and stuff with Tom, I haven't, but in the past I've met with Billy, Tom, Jesse for a little bit.
Okay. So I guess you kind of count, huh, Tom?
I shop a lot.
And that's the only time he wants to ever talk about this stuff too.
Right. It's
Yeah.
when you're in the grocery store.
Yeah. Pulling on his cart.
Buying fish food for his 5 fish.
It's 5, not 6. I counted it.
So I have one question. So from the last time you ran, I have no idea what's been going on for you in general, but for appointment, I had recommended to all the folks who we didn't choose that they decided to join other boards and just gain experience in town government. I myself was in the BZA for 4 years and the PC for 2 years before I ran for mayor, and just found that to be super helpful to just learn more about town government by being in town government. Just was that something that didn't move you to try because we had openings in different boards, or was it just bad timing?
Personally, it was just really bad timing.
Okay.
Now I actually have the time to devote again for the past year. It's been a little hectic, so
okay,
just didn't have the time.
You'll pay in arrears.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Other questions for Riley? If not, we will move to public comments.
Teresa Robertson.
Hey, Teresa.
Hi there. I live on 140 East First Street. And so I'm going to ask the difficult question that everyone's been dancing around and no one wants to ask. It's about development. So I'd like to know from each of the 4 candidates, how would they know, what are their opinions and how would they navigate the upcoming PUD on proposed PUD for First Street, where we're going to tear down First Street and redevelop it. So what are your thoughts about how to redevelop Nederland? I know that development's coming and we need to do it smart. So what are each of your thoughts and any alliances you might have with the developer? Thank you.
We'll just start with Max and go around.
As far as specifically First Street, I need to read into that more. But as far as development goes, personally, I would love to see some type of height restriction put in place in town. I don't mind a 2-story building or a 3-story, but above that, I don't want our sight lines and our skylines being diminished. We have a beautiful environment to see. That is one of the areas that I love about town, being able to walk up and from wherever I am, just look up into the mountains or look out to the lake. And I think that's important. I think that's important for a lot of different people. And so from a development aspect, that's an important topic to me, as well as doing it right. If we're going to build and put in infrastructure, let's do it right the first time, because otherwise we're blowing a lot more money to do it right the second time. So.
And what about your alliances with the developer? Thank you.
I do not know Ron personally, nor have I spoken to him. So I don't really have an alliance to any specific developer at the moment.
Thanks, Max.
Yeah.
Ty?
Well, wait, real quick to Max, I just want to let him know that we do have a height restriction. Is it 35 feet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. I've dug into the town codes a while ago, but not specifically on height
Yeah,
restriction.
no, it's a lot we just find it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm happy it's 35 feet. Yes.
I'm Aaron Ty here. I'm frankly excited to see, like I said previously, I am excited to see where the town goes. My personal opinions on it is, let's not forget what this town is. We're an Old West mining town. Let's not take away that charm from First Street, because some of those buildings, they're cool looking. They're neat buildings, but like I said previously, they're getting a little dangerous. They're full of old style construction materials that are dangerous. They have water damage. They're falling down. Like I said, my personal opinion on it is let's not forget who we are as we go into the future, what this town was built off of. I'd love to see them redo First Street, but let's keep that Old West charm. Not only does it continue to make our town unique, but it does draw on tourists to want to walk First Street, shop in our stores, eat at our restaurants. Let's just keep that going. And as far as alliances go, I've spoken to Ron a couple times when I worked at ACE. I spoke to him once when I worked as a police officer, but otherwise we don't know each other personally. Yeah, that's about it.
Thanks, Ty. Luke?
Yeah, I think kind of similar to what everybody's saying, it's clear that downtown needs some level of upkeep and upgrade and development. I haven't talked, usually when I tell somebody I'm thinking of running for the BOT, this is the first question they ask me. So I've talked to a fair number of people about it, and I haven't heard anyone say that they're excited about the current plan. So I think that says to me that most of the public opinion on it is not in favor. And I think that's something that we have to take into consideration pretty seriously. And I think that the disrepair of the current buildings is something needs to be addressed, but it's also a result of some of the decisions that have been made in the past.
In any alliance, please?
No alliances with any developers of any sort.
Thank you.
All right, and without having the actual development plan in front of me, I can't go into specifics, but I would definitely revert to, we need to redo infrastructure. Infrastructure meaning water, sewer, old buildings, hazardous materials, basic hazards. As far as how the town's gonna look and all that stuff, honestly, as long as everything's safe and the town agrees and everyone in this room comes to a decision, great. No alliances here. I do think that we will have to do something. It's not an if, it's when. And it behooves us to get on board, start looking at all the stuff that people don't see. Because when people say redevelopment, they think about knocking down buildings and putting up new buildings, high rises, taking away the charm. A lot of these places, we just need to start from below the ground up. Basic sewer, water, power, walls that won't crumble down, no asbestos in the ceilings. Insulation, black mold, the list goes on. As far as getting into the semantics of how everything's going to look and going back and forth, I would need to look at the facts and weigh opinions versus facts and go from there. But yes, something needs to be done. This infrastructure will not last forever.
Thanks, Riley. Thanks, Teresa. Before we have another public comment, I need to make a move to extend the meeting. Just for a little heads up, we have to complete this action item, or at least that's the plan. And then there are BOT staff reports. We have to allow time for public comment for non-agenda items. And I know at least there's two little tiny other business items that should be covered that together might be 5 minutes max. Yeah. So I'd like to make a motion to extend the meeting to 10:30.
Second.
Thank you. Macy?
Trustee Corvalon,
Yes.
Trustee Severs,
Yes.
Trustee Sterling,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahone,
Yes.
Mayor Billy,
Yes.
and Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is it public comments? Who, someone out there? There is no one in the room. So if you're online, have a public comment. Now is your time.
Hey,
Hello?
before we go on to the next commenter, sorry, I wanted to hear Riley answer the question regarding alliances with the developers on First Street.
Yep, I did mention that, but no alliances.
My apologies.
Thanks. Anyone else online with public comment?
Hello?
Go for it, Kathleen.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, Kathleen Chipai, 32-year resident of East Magnolia and 20-year business owner. I want to thank everybody that applied. I'm excited to see some new names and hear some new voices. I do want to thank everybody that particular to, I had one question to Max because I didn't really meet Max, but I attended a meeting with the logo meeting at the train cars that I believe he was at. And he had come with Sam, and I thought Sam had introduced him as his brother who doesn't live in town, but was visiting him, who just happened to come to that logo meeting because he was visiting Sam. So I guess I want to see when Max really moved to Nederland. And then I'm prone to go with appointing someone, as I've stated at previous meetings. And from what I read and heard, closest to my heart, of course, is always the code language. And so I definitely want to give my support to Riley, and then I want to give my support to, I believe it was Luke, who was from the community and then came back. I really thought his letter was excellent and that he'd be also a good representative. And I want to thank Riley for coming back again and again. So I had a different answer when you were asked, why didn't you get on the board? What were the problems the last time? I had a different answer, and that was that the code language wasn't clear and you possibly had your seat taken from you, is how I feel about it. So I want to thank Riley for coming back at it again. And I support those two candidates for appointment. And yeah, that's my public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Oh, well, can I get it answered from Luke when he actually, from
Max. Yes.
Max?
Thank you. Yeah, yes, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
We had a friend in town who is the person who joined. I can't remember who that person was, though. I would have to ask Sam. But I started renting on Johnson just under 2 years ago, and then was down in Boulder for 8 months or so, and then was up here previous to that for about 1.5 years. So kind of had to bounce back and forth, but
How long have you been here continuously this time?
just under 2 years.
Okay. Thank you. Any other public comments?
Yeah, Jonathan Baum over here. I just was curious. Thank you. It was awesome to hear the board's questions, very thoughtful questions from all the different trustees. And it's really awesome to see 4 different folks not only stepping up to be appointed, but also willing to run come April. I guess my question to all the individuals here that I'm just curious about is, we talk about all these projects in the town of Nederland and all the needs for infrastructure, but fundamentally we will always be limited by a budget. A town is basically, whether or not it wants to be as a government, a business. It takes in tax funds, revenue, and then allocates those to provide services, the infrastructure, the sewage, the water. For the 4 appointees so you can be appointed, what would you perceive to be Nederland's greatest assets for making sustainable revenue into the future. We are currently at a place of having defunct infrastructure, but also not enough revenue as a town to sustain what we have, let alone build what we need. And we rely heavily on grants. What would be your idea for reducing our reliance on grants and developing sustainable revenue sources for the town of Nederland?
A very excellent question. We'll start with Riley and go counterclockwise.
Well, with the 10 seconds to mull this one over.
No
yeah,
pressure.
John, no, it's a great question. That we'd have to look into our sustainability and how we can use, I mean, the big one that's looming in my head would be tourism. I mean, somehow, whether it be putting up I know we've already talked about this and I'm just going to bring up more things to talk about, but the paid parking. I mean, I've seen donations to public or to parks and wildlife, where I got the boxes on the trailheads where people can donate, or they have all the outreach groups going to people for, hey, clean the water, clean the environment.
Closer to the mic so they can hear you. Thanks.
Man, without relying directly on outside tourism, I really don't know there is a one instant answer. I'm actually going to think about this some more. Great question. I'll get back to you on that one, Jonathan.
Thank you. Jonathan will likely ask us these questions when we run for our offices.
Yeah, I think we could talk a long time about this, and if somebody had the right answer, we'd all be pretty excited. But I think Riley's on the right track, at least from my first take on it, is tourism is definitely our lowest hanging fruit. I mentioned earlier, we have this traffic jam of cars going through town on the ski weekends in the winter. And in my mind, those are people who are coming through town and they're frustrated because they're just stuck in this, backup trying to go skiing. And it seems to me there's some untapped potential there too. I heard somebody talking about putting up a breakfast burrito stand, like kind of right by the Ace BNF intersection there, where everybody's just like, but the other thing I think is that's really kind of comes to my mind is tapping into the summertime mountain bike, hike, outdoor rec crowd. I think there's a lot to be done where we could get people to spend their money in our town and take advantage of some of our excellent outdoor recreation and still do that in a responsible way that we don't overload the systems that we have.
Thanks, Luke. Ty?
It's Aaron.
Do you have a preference?
I go by time most of the time, but I
Yeah.
appreciate it. No,
See, because you corrected him last time. You said Aaron.
No, I didn't. Really?
He did. Yeah, I never knew his name was Aaron.
Yeah.
I knew him for 7 years until I knew his
What
name.
would you prefer?
Ty.
Okay, so everyone call you
Miranda
Ty.
called him Aaron. I was like, what's that?
Ah, that's so funny. Aaron Ty. Okay, never mind. Ty.
Aaron Ty here. Just like Luke and Riley, I would definitely promote tourism, and kind of like I was saying, if we're going to redo First Street, let's build off of what our history is. Not everybody has places like this. They love to come visit these kinds of places up in the mountains. But like I said, let's build off of what our history is. Let's get people here, eating at our restaurants, shopping at our stores. The old mining town, Nederland, it was really fun. Let's go back. But the same with, maybe creating some kind of niche festivals, not necessarily just kind of music. Like let's maybe have a fly fishing festival or a bushcraft festival that like aligns with what we already have going on here. I've been to Dead Guy Days. It can be fun, but it is pure insanity. And especially when you walk down there and you've lived here for, 8 years like I have, and you see two people you know. Everybody else is an unfamiliar face. But let's I'm excited to see if we can't get some other festivals besides music. Don't get me wrong, I like music, but let's see what else we can get going on up here that aligns with what we already have here.
Thanks, Ty. Thanks, Aaron. Ty. Max?
It's kind of fun to go last, but also you have a lot of time to think on it. Not to beat a dead horse, as all the candidates said, tourism. Eric, you mentioned it earlier in the meeting. There's a bunch of vehicles driving through town. How can we capture that revenue? I'm not really exactly sure. Maybe we can put up a tollway down Boulder Canyon and go ahead and start collecting, a couple pennies per axle.
I've heard that idea, actually.
But CDOT might be a little annoyed at us doing that, but maybe we can chip in on and help them too. I'm not exactly sure, to be honest, but I think tourism would be a great way. And super open to other options. I think, we can look how we're taxing and doing that piece and where and what, but we have to dive into the details and really understand it. Infrastructure costs a lot. We're going to have to pick one and run with that and then start making choices from there. But yeah.
Thanks, Max. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Any other public comments? If not, we'll bring it back to the board for discussion.
Just to preface this is where it feels really awkward because we're gonna be talking about you, okay? So I remember when I went through my appointment, it was like the most nerve-wracking thing in the world, so awkward. So just wanting to give you guys a heads up.
And you may likely also, be asked to answer questions through this process too, so.
I mean, I'm generally against appointment. To be frank, I think that we're very close to an election. I would rather let the people of Ned decide at this point. I think that appointment is a really useful tool when we're far away from an election. But because we are so close, I find this to be a little bit redundant. So I would rather not appoint any of you, really. But that has nothing to do with you. Right? So I might vote no on an appointment on the basis of being not for appointment, right? Rather than the person. I just want to throw that out there.
And to be clear, both you and I were, and I think maybe even Trustee Corbalon were just like, can we just wait until the election? But then this kind of came up as, hey, we could go through this appointment process and still say no and just let it play out in the election.
But I am blown away by everything here. Like the history that folks have with town in different ways, I think is amazing. I mean, Riley's connection to our mining history and Tom Hendricks, Luke being, born here and from here in the most literal sense, and Ty, the way that you worked, everywhere. I mean, I find that to be an extremely compelling viewpoint that I do feel like we might be lacking on this board. The viewpoint of someone who actually works on the ground in town, variety of jobs, speaking to people on the street in that way is a very compelling perspective that I do feel this board could benefit from. Max's background in civil engineering, I think, would be hugely helpful for town. I mean, there's obviously so much stuff that you could help advise on, so many decisions that you could help make on the nitty gritty of actually making stuff happen, which I think could also be hugely valuable. I kind of feel like resigning right now so that you guys can just appoint two of these guys.
No, we need to squeeze everything out of you, dude.
Just be glad you're not running against them.
Indeed, yeah. No, I would be honored to lose to any of you in an election. I guess nobody answered my question in the way that I probably would have answered it. which is okay. Because I kind of feel like I kind of have the opposite feeling from Riley. Not that your feeling on this is wrong in any way. I think we need both types. But for me, it's sort of like sometimes it's okay not to do anything. And maybe better for the community not to do anything sometimes. I don't think it's always about action. It's always about making something happen at all costs, even if that thing is compromised, right? Yeah, we have to make hard choices. Yes, we have to compromise sometimes, but sometimes a compromised project is just a bad project. And sometimes it just shouldn't be done. And we should just do nothing. And sometimes that's like the best decision you can make. So that's what I was kind of fishing for, because I'm a non-issues kind of a politician, right? Like, I don't think it's necessarily about issues. I think a lot of what we do is keeping the lights on. A lot of what we do is maintaining what we've got. A lot of what we do is making sure people have clean water running to their taps, and that, like, I know people complain about the state of the streets, but we have streets. I mean, these are not like small things. We act like we take them for granted, I think, a lot. And it's a gargantuan effort, especially in this environment, in this place, in this town, with this budget, to make any of this work the way that it does. So I just hope everybody keeps that in mind, like moving forward. Like, even if there's a pothole, like, at least there's a road to have a pothole in, kind of a mentality, right? Because, sometimes even that is a first world problem. But anyway, my general leanings, and I'll give reasons, I guess. I mean, Ty, I'd love to serve with you for a couple of months. I think it'd be really fun. And I really think that your perspective is something that is lacking on the board. I'm leaning in your direction. And Luke, I'm very, very compelled by the way that you spoke. I think it was really, really eloquent, really lovely. I think that we need voices like that in positions like these, and that might be even more important than the decisions that you make. Because that's the other thing that, elected officials kind of do. They're voices for people, and that's not always about just decision making or, kind of evaluating things that are placed before you, but articulating an idea that might be larger than that individual decision. I think Trustee Severs does that really, really well. And I think having folks like that on the board is really important. Yeah, I mean, I am so in awe of Riley's persistence and your dedication to this. I don't agree with you on so much. And for that reason, I'm not leaning in your direction. I think you might be right. And I might be wrong about stuff. But right now, I'm gonna go with my gut. And Max, I think you would be awesome on this board. But it's the time thing. Like, I feel like Ty has this depth of experience with the community. Luke has this depth of experience with the community, and that's why I'm leaning in their directions.
Thanks, Eric. Tanya, Jesse.
This is tough. I agree with Eric on the sense that I didn't want to do this. I wanted to let the people decide in 2 months, but we're here, so I'm gonna not say no to the fact that everybody's here. I would be happy with any of you guys for the 2 months that are remaining. You all seem very qualified. Well, qualified, who's qualified? None of us really are, but you seem very dedicated and have great perspectives to add to the board. If I had to pick, it would, which I guess I do, eventually, but I think Luke is the one that most is interesting to me because he has a kid in the schools, which I do as well, mine's in the high school. And I feel like that perspective is really important when making decisions, is thinking about how that could help with families and attracting families, and our school district that is really well, our school, which is on the edge of having enough enrollment and always struggles with so much, that I would like to have someone else that understands that on the board with me. So that's, I guess, but I mean, like it's all nitpicking because I think everybody's got something great to add to this board. I agree with Eric also that Ty's, because he's out there, he knows so many different people and it's kind of got the pulse. That's interesting too. So I don't know. I'm not ready to make a motion myself. I don't know. I don't have a specific question, but I'm curious to hear what other people have to say.
Thanks, Tanya.
One observation I wanted to make, that another one, that was a good trick question, by the way. We just passed a budget that's $111,000 upside down. We did it because we made a decision to pay our employees fairly. We need to get that, make sure this is a one-shot deal because it's coming out of reserves. And I'm not entirely comfortable that we're anywhere close to that yet. So we're, Nicole a little earlier mentioned that our goal this year was to stabilize. And I think we've done that. But we need to improve the top line or we're going to have to correct the bottom line. And nobody brought that up. I don't know that you've been following it, but it's going to be something, it's going to be a major task along with fixing our code, fixing our infrastructure, getting additional sources of revenue in the forms of sales tax, getting the houses built that we said we're going to do under the housing plan. So it's going to be a bumpy ride and you're coming in backwards in $111,000 upside down. So yeah, I'm comfortable. I would, just in terms of process, I'd like to know, do we go through a decision on first on whether we're going to appoint tonight and then who it would be, or what is our process? What are we going to do here?
I'm going to wait to hear from everybody probably till we get to that. I mean, the rumblings I'm hearing is it sounds like appointment so far from the two people I thought most wanted election. So, but I also, the people I have spoken to, I've told them we may choose not to appoint. So yeah. But for now, I think I appreciate your comments. You bring up the good point about the fact that we're in the red and we need to figure out how to bring in more revenue and housing. And there's all these things that we need to do. So I appreciate your comments and Nicole?
Yeah,
Yes.
like the question might less be like, it might not be so much what do you do as a board member, but what do you stop the town from doing in order to keep our budget afloat, right? Like that could be what actually ends up happening here. Like, what do we need to cut? Might be the question that you're being appointed or elected to answer, which is a much worse question.
Especially if it's people. Yeah. Jesse, Mexico, tune in.
I'm here in New Mexico. Still warm. So yeah, I guess I want to thank our applicants for showing up and raising your hands. And I feel like we have really great pool here. I am favorable towards appointing. I feel that we're a 7-person board and we should do what we can to maintain that number, and everybody's up for re-election except for Tom and Tanya anyway. So I think that this is a relatively short stint. It's a good opportunity to build in a little bit of continuity into whatever board turns over and comes in the event that whoever we appoint gets elected as well. Yeah, I think everybody has really great strengths, and I would be I would be happy with any of them, really. I think my first choice would be Luke. And that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Jesse. Nicole.
Right? Weird, awkward, crazy. So Max, that first question really did sort of, I caught you on that one, huh? Yeah, I did.
Naughty.
And part of it was because this board is so much bigger than just one issue. And I knew somebody was going to walk into it, and I apologize. But
It asked very explicitly, and
yeah,
kind of nice, like hurts.
it hurts. I know. But it's kind of to prove a point that there isn't just one issue that's to be solved. We have so much to look at. Housing, water. Yes, there's the logo, but it's so much bigger than that. And there's an identity that we are trying to redefine for who Nederland is. Because, some people get pissed off when all we refer to is the frozen dead guy. And some people, we're like, but we're so much bigger than that. We're so much more. And so it was to kind of paint the picture that it is just more than one issue. And it's something that I'm proud that every week I get to, some people may find it painful, but I get to dive into a packet and sort of learn something new about the town and something, that I get to help affect. So I hope that that's at least one thing that everyone walks away, is that it's just so much bigger than just the thing. And it's a big responsibility and it's a job that you don't get paid very much for. But here's where I'm at. Riley, props, man, for coming back. And I actually think your youthfulness is an advantage. It's not, I'm just gonna be very explicit, it's not really represented, okay, on the board. And that's an advantage that I ask very deliberately a diverse perspective, because that's important to me, that maybe, we're not always diverse in certain race and color and religion, but that we have diverse perspectives that we're bringing from background and experience. And so I really appreciate that, and that you're willing to speak up confidently. I was a little nitpicky about your paragraphs that you offered, because I was like, where's the hell's the rest of it? I want to know more about this guy. So maybe just a bit of feedback, but for the most part, thank you for coming back. So you're one of my picks. Second one is Aaron. Ty, what the hell? I mean, sorry, Aaron, Ty. Here's the other, and it's for the same reason of a diverse perspective. I have people in my life who are very much like you, on the ground, working with their hands, talking to a lot of folks. Why isn't this else? But you come at it from a very centered perspective, and that's something that's important here. It's one thing to have opinions and to have issues that you're passionate about, but at the end, if you can't pull on each of all the different perspectives, you're not on this board. And so I would say that I'm leaning in directions. Luke, I think you'd be a fantastic addition to 2 as well. I think that they offer a little bit of an extra bonus. Like if I'm making a decision now and today, right? That's where I would be leaning. But hell, I think I'd agree. I'd be honored to lose to any of you in an election. I don't plan on it, but
honored, but not gonna.
But I'd still be honored. I gotta go at it, fellas. We need diverse representation as well. So that's why I'm going for it just as hard. So thanks.
Thanks, everyone. So Max, thank you and appreciate it for the running with you in the election. I just think, yeah, you being newer to the town, and your civil engineering brings a lot. But I think, yeah, maybe someone with, I'm saying this wrong, boots running on the ground, so someone who's going right now and have more of a sense of what's going on with town for these 2-3 months of kind of a, trial period while they're running for election would be kind of where I lean. That's where I lean. So thanks, keep running. And glad your brother, represents in SAB, but, and to confirm, I do know you've lived down the street from me for at least 2 years. So, so I know you live here. But thanks and look forward to April. Riley, appreciate your being here again, and I think your answers this time around have been more specific and a little more informed and more specific and more like deeper. Like you're developing your perspective more as you go along, and I think that's where run again. You run in the election in April, and then if you get elected, you'll be on the board. And if not, all of y'all, get on other boards, like start getting experience. I'm glad Jonathan Parker decided to do that earlier in the meeting in the BZA, like get to understand the whole just rhythm of this. So thank you. And Luke and Ty. So I'm between you two for different reasons. And so I'm just going to try to, I like you both. And so don't take anything personally.
I'm sorry, you need to do.
Hey,
a motion
Billy,
to extend.
can
Thank
I,
you. Oh, yeah.
can I interrupt you?
I'm going to make a motion
Yeah.
to extend for to 10:45, so 15 minutes. I don't think we're going to need all that time because I think we're going to come to some kind of motion here soon. And then we do have to allow time for non public comments and then a couple of things, other business. So I make a motion 10:45.
Second.
Thank you. Macy.
Mayor Billy,
Yes.
Trustee Severs,
Yes.
Jesse.
He said yes.
Trustee Sterling,
Thanks, Jesse.
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahone,
Yes.
and Trustee Corvalon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Also, don't take it personally when Mayor Billy votes against you because he voted against me in my appointment. So
Yeah, I did. Sorry. And I voted against Sean Mountain too. So what can I say? I was 1 for 2. So Luke, you bring so much. I think, talking about your growing up here, your family. I know your family, and I know your wife and your son, and I met your parents, and I just love what you bring here and your perspective, and you really seem to understand a lot of what is going on, and you're talking to people in the industry, in the town, and you got their perspectives, and yeah, I know you'd be a great fit immediately. I feel like your demographic is well represented, and that probably the only reason you're not my very first pick. And Ty, you're my very first pick because I think you do. By the way, Ty has 2 children, so he does have kids in the school system. They're just preschool and kindergarten, first grade. So to me, you bring that trades perspective. I love that about Jonathan Baumhover being, there was just that insight about how things kind of work, and we do get that from Jesse. But sometimes Jesse, once the foundation ends, we need input from to keep building the building, to keep going higher. So more different trades and different perspectives, and then also the experiences you've had in our marshal department with BVSD county at the recycle center, and then work you do now as a handyman. And the fact that you know so many people, as do you, Luke. So that's the other thing you both bring. I mean, y'all probably do, but I know you guys do. That I think that just gives you have good relationships with a lot of people, and I think that would help the board. And so that also is important to me. So, and you bring that diverse side of just another tradesman. So, yeah, you're my preference. Barely, just not barely, but you're all my preferences. You're just my first preference. Barely prefer you, Ty.
Luke, you're my preference. Just so you know.
Okay. So, I think we've all said our.
did Tom?
No. Yes, he did. Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, before you.
Wait, who he was leaning toward?
No, I didn't.
Oh no.
I don't care to.
Yeah, yeah, and that is, that's quite all right. I don't think we were straw polling it, and that's fine.
Yeah, this is not Iowa.
Oh, yes, it is not. It's Colorado. All right, so do we want, okay, yeah, I mean, anyway, I can't make it, I can't, wait, let me read the questions before the board, before
I mean, anyone could make any motion now.
right, so I do, yeah, that's true. I was-
Then make one.
I mean, it's funny, but here's the thing. I am not gonna have put you all through this and then be like, no, I refuse to appoint someone.
Thank you.
I might.
What kind of a ridiculous
I might.
way to act would that be?
Yeah.
No, I can't do it. I was just hoping that nobody would apply. But now I'm glad that y'all have. And I mean, personally, I would move to appoint Aaron Ty to the Board of Trustees.
I second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, maybe
Can I do a competing motion for Luke?
you can't do competing motions. We're picking one person.
Well, if this motion fails.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you can.
Sorry.
Right, sorry.
If this motion fails, you can. But I believe we have to take a vote.
We have
first.
to pick one person.
Well, no, but we just have to take a vote first.
Right, the only way to change this is to do a friendly amendment to change it from a time.
We'd like to appoint
Right.
both Luke and Aaron. Ty, I mean, no, just kidding. Can't do that.
So we have.
So we have a motion and a second, Macy?
Yep.
Unless there, actually, is there any actual discussion?
Jesse might have discussion.
Do you have discussion?
Friendly amendment to change the motion to Luke.
I don't think that's how.
No, you can,
No,
you can do that, but I'm gonna reject that.
Thank you for the friendly amendment.
I don't think it's going to work.
Thank you
Okay.
for the friendly rejection.
All right, well. Macy?
All right, trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
trustee Severs,
No.
trustee Sterling,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahone,
No.
trustee Corvalon,
No.
and Mayor.
Yes.
All right, so the
Uh,
motion does not pass.
This is why we're doing
So
this.
this is what just happened.
This is why we need the seventh.
This,
When there's a no, the motion fails. When there's a tie, the motion fails.
It needs four
When there's
votes
a
to
tie.
carry a motion. Is how we need it.
Motion.
Did I make a motion?
Yes.
I make motion to appoint Luke Mello.
Jesse seconded.
Waiting for it.
Did he? Have you seconded or are you?
Contemplating.
Yeah, I second the motion.
Macy?
All right, trustee Sterling,
No.
trustee Severs,
Yes.
trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
Mayor Billy,
No, just not a principal.
trustee Corvalon,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Mahone. Okay, thank
The
you.
motion passes, Luke. You will be our appointee. And I hope you all win in April. Run to win.
But also get used to losing.
Yeah, I mean, I hope you all, I mean, we don't have enough seats for everyone I want to have.
Yeah, we
one, so
don't.
that's-
I mean, then that means you'd be hoping you're.
But I would recommend, yeah, run in April and then we'll,
Before we break from this section, I just wanted clarification on one thing. How many applications can we sign?
oh, four trustees and one mayor.
Okay, so those of you who got on it early, congratulations, but I'm running out of slots to sign.
He signed.
I for trust so far none.
Wait, what are you talking about?
I haven't.
Didn't you
no,
just sign one?
I signed Jesse's. That's it.
You just signed Nikki's.
I've got two. I've got two more, and so I'd say don't wait till the last
Did
minute.
he sign yours?
Don't wait till the last minute. I
Ah,
recommend to sign yours. Okay, then I'm stuck.
Don't let time sign yours, because him and I signed each other's and we all had our names all crossed out because we shouldn't have signed each other's
You
last time.
got, yeah, you showed initiative. Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, so I got you, yeah, I got one more.
Wait, why
Um,
can't you sign each other's?
No, we could, but there was only,
A total of 4.
yeah, I'll explain to you later, because when only there was only one mayor position, you can only sign one mayor and 4 trustees. To answer the question, it's for all of you.
Couldn't
You can
sign
sign 4
your
trustee
petition and
nominations
Tom's
and
petition. I
only
would have to
one
pick one.
mayor.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really important to get clear on this, and the 20 seconds coming up faster than you think.
Okay,
And
cool.
this applies to everyone, not just.
Yes, townwide, anyone, yeah.
So we better get a new nameplate.
Thanks, everyone. And yeah, I understand, yeah,
Luke, get used to being a tiebreaker.
yeah. That's very, probably pretty sound statement. So with that, let's move to, BOT and staff reports are in the packet.
Yeah, before we go on, I wanted to be, just say, good job. I really appreciate seeing the sheriff's report in here and the co-responder. It tells me so much about what's going on. We've got it from the department heads, but I'm really feeling better about having a full disclosure, transparency from from our police. Kudos to them for that.
Miranda, quick question about your staff report. I saw the tiny home presentation in there. Those are mobile homes, though, a lot of them. And we only allow mobile homes in high density residential, correct?
Yeah, so I met again with the developer last week and we talked a bit about that, they would need to be permanent structures, not mobile units. And so he's going back to the drawing board he's calling those tiny homes, but we discussed how in definition they don't match. And so he's going to keep working on a proposal.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that because technically our code is requiring foundation, right? And many of these depicted were not.
Correct.
Okay, all right. thank you.
Except that the ones on by the fire station are on medium density and they just got a special review used to get that to happen. So
Yeah, so I think that it's hard to really figure out that situation. I think what we've determined is that the zoning use group table and when those trailers went in, you've got kind of a discrepancy there because to that point, it's a letter authorizing use that's tied to that trailer park, even though it's not, and as Trustee Corbin notes, not in the right zone.
who wrote the letter?
I think it was Alicia Reese.
But I thought it was a special review used through the planning commission.
I haven't been able to locate an SRU. I only have the letter of.
That wasn't that long ago. Wow. Okay, so I guess we can just write a letter.
Now, I haven't, to that point, to Trustee Corbin's point, Trustee Corbin has asked questions, but I have not received direction by the majority of the board to further research this matter. So it kind of has stopped at that.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to pick out and make sure that, yep, sounds like it. Okay, thanks.
To the candidates, one more thing. We're not talking, we have 1,450 people. We have about 1,200 registered voters. It's only going to take about 220 to 250 to win. This is grassroots. This is grass. If we had any grass. So every person you talk to counts. Make your connections. Give it your shot. I'm delighted to serve with any of you.
And make sure they've updated their voter registration.
And I like to make one final comment. Really think twice about this. Don't go through all this process and then resign in 8 months, 6 months, because it's a lot of work and a lot of time, and you might get a lot of heat from people in town and blaming you for things they don't like, and you have to be thick-skinned. And if you don't think you're gonna see this through the 2 years, then please don't waste your time, because then we end up here having to appoint and spend 2 hours plus, and it's really irritating. So just think about it. If you don't want to do it, you can pull your application out.
Well, some of the terms will be 4 years, I believe.
We're going to need to extend
4
the meeting.
years, but please, if you.
I know, then we need to move forward. Anything else? And the mayor's report, the only thing I talked to Beckett, and I think he's in a good place and we'll be happy with, the work they do and come bring to us on the 30th. So that's my mayor's
That's on
report.
this afternoon, so same opinion.
Great, cool. And then with that, public comment on non-agenda items. Hearing none, we have two other business items. I have one and Miranda has one. We can do this.
Super fast.
Yeah.
So the planning commission has been working on the short-term rental moratorium. They've been meeting frequently, but there's a lot of legal complexities in terms of figuring out how to tighten up some of those loopholes. And we're running close to time. The moratorium ends in March. We're asking for your consideration of a 90-day extension that we would bring back to you on the 6th for you to vote on so that no one's rushing this through last minute. The last thing we want to do is put out an ordinance that has legal issues and trying to debate that out. And so we'd like more time as a subcommittee to keep working on this. And so just looking for a quick nod of forward that we could bring an ordinance back on the 6th for you to vote on for a 90-day extension.
Why not 60 days?
Well, you have an election and a lot of other things going on. You kind of lose all of April as a board because of an election. So a 90-day extension would be great to get us through.
Would be 60 days, basically.
Practically, yes. It would get us through to the first week of June.
You've got my nod.
Great. I nod.
Nod.
If Tom's not, I'm not.
So we got enough nods for that. And so thank you. And then you'll bring that back to us to talk about on the 6th. So my thing is just about scheduling. So as you may or may not know, we are, there's the optional meetings. We got comp plan next Tuesday. We got Godot the Tuesday after that. And then we're in February. We have a BOT meeting on the 6th, PC BOT meeting, joint meeting on the 13th, BOT meeting on the 20th. Now a joint meeting with Kayla on the 27th, a BOT meeting following Tuesday on March 5th, a BOT work session with DCI and DDA on the 12th, a BOT meeting on the 19th. That's 7 straight Tuesdays. I don't understand why Kayla, I was trying to give us at least a breather on the 27th. Two trustees can bring this, but 7 straight Tuesdays, and really some of us at least should show up for the preceding Tuesday, for the 2 weeks prior to that. So it's been kind of a lot, and I'm just kind of pleading to the board trustees, like, is this what we want to do? It's every Tuesday we're meeting. And so I just want us to really talk. I'm going to try to talk to Kayla about seeing if we can at least move that out a ways and give us the 27th off.
It'd be awesome if we could get an email with that written down so we can put all that on our calendar, organized.
Okay, I just want everyone, what does everyone, those meetings, that meeting schedule?
I mean, I'm sure I can't make every one of them.
You need to extend if you're going to continue this conversation.
All right.
Sorry.
I'll make a motion to extend for 3 minutes till 10:50.
Yes, second that.
Okay, Macy?
Mayor Billy?
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail?
Yes.
Trustee Corvalon?
Yes.
Trustee Sterling?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahone?
No.
And Trustee Severs?
Jesse?
No.
Okay. The motion passes, so we can, 3 more minutes. I just would like to hear what people are thinking about all these meetings.
I don't know.
I don't like having so many meetings and also I don't like.
Huh?
I don't like meeting at 11 o'clock. I'd like to meet at 5 and be done at 9 or 8.
Every Tuesday?
Well, it's just 11 o'clock is just unreasonable, and we should start earlier in the day.
Yeah, I don't
I've said it before. It didn't have support, so.
Yeah, you can call those work sessions whenever you want. I think if you're going to change the start time of your regular meeting, you need to amend your rules of one of those, one document.
It's a good suggestion.
It's not the number of Tuesdays. It's the loaded agenda on every single meeting. That's what's bothering me. Like, I'm
Yeah,
not that worried
I
about the
agree.
number of Tuesdays.
I could even,
I'm much more worried about the packed agenda.
because we've told folks, it's, how many hours were you told? 5 to 10 hours a week, right? I mean, that's sort of what we're all expecting and signed up for. So agreed. It's not the number of Tuesdays. It is mind numbing to go to 11 o'clock at night.
I agree. And I think starting earlier is a good idea. I think to some degree, we're doing what Kayla told us we do. We're going after every shiny object that comes in front of us, and just things keep getting thrown from so many directions onto agendas. Our requests for agendas aren't all coming from town. They're not all coming from the mayor. They come from people in town. They come from different needs that we need. They come from a couple trustees. It's a constant barrage, and not everything is urgent. I think we could be spreading it
We
out
need a better way to rank the priority of these things. It's not first come, first serve. That's not how a town should operate. That's absurd. Like, just because somebody shows up and says, I want to talk about something, doesn't mean we should talk about it. I really think things should be ranked. I do think that in many ways, the mayoral position should do that.
Yeah.
And I
Sure.
think we need to start stripping the agendas down so this doesn't happen.
Because you set the agenda?
The town administrator.
I do, but I can't. I mean, if you want to have weekly meetings that are 3 hour long, is that what you want? I mean, it's more just a joint session gets thrown in, a work session gets thrown in. Yeah, these sessions are long, but like it's all the other weeks are getting filled in now. I mean, I can write an email because I can scheduling emails. I can write to the whole BOT.
We also don't need public on work sessions. Not necessary. And I don't think it's valuable.
But
Like, I would like to hear public comment on things that are on the agenda that we're actually not for on or taking action on. Like, when we're talking about hypotheticals and, those kinds of ideas, I just don't think it's that valuable. I think we can talk to people on our own time.
So you're talking about even discussions?
No, I'm talking about work sessions.
Oh, you're talking about, work sessions. Okay.
Yeah, if we have all these work sessions lined up, if we have these massive periods of public comment right in the middle of them, this only extends it even further.
We need to extend the meeting again.
No.
No, I move to adjourn.
Motion
No.
to adjourn.
No, second.
So can someone send me an email with all the list of
Yeah,
meetings?
yes.
So I can
Oh,
figure out,
you bet.
prioritize them?
But overall, yeah, weekly, it doesn't bother me. It's 4-hour meetings. That's all.
I'm the opposite because I'd rather have a
Yeah, weekly, yeah.
All right, but we can't. talk.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, Mayor Billy?
Yes.
Trustee Corvalon?
Yes.
Trustee Sterling?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahone?
Yes.
Trustee Severs?
Yes.
And Trustee Coombs Ismail?
Yes.
Thank you. The meeting is adjourned at 10:51 PM.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.